It's Thursday, and thanks, Sibner. I guess my mind was on May 25th still, not realizing that the date was still sitting there in the history incorrectly. I'm an idiot. Let's jump straight to Celeste. Hello, Celeste. You are amazing. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited for today's discussion and announcements and all sorts of fun things.
I uh, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I am going to share something that I did not warn you about that just came
Oh
in.
God.
Let's see. This happened literally less than 45 minutes ago. I just got a message on Instagram that said, "Hi Ryan, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate what you do. I listen to it almost every day, and it's such an inspiration. There's some other stuff that I'll mention in just a second. However, the last thing, cheers to you, and I'll be checking out your Severin recommendations. Greetings to Celeste tonight. She's so awesome, I'm gonna die."
Thanks.
I followed up with that and said, "I agree. Celeste is love. Celeste is life." And they said, "Celeste is love. Celeste is life. That is now my new mantra."
Wow. It's high praise. Thank you.
Uh, for this person, that was super wonderful to send me this message. I wanted to shout this out. This person, burying the lead here, this person is from Chile. Uh,
Oh,
they
nice.
they messaged to say that it's been inspirational with the show, and they have gotten through some of their job stuff and wanted to start a website, and so they started this website called Previamente Visto, and I've looked at it, and it's actually really neat. So everybody in the chat, you should go check out previamentevisto.cl, and I will be sharing that just so they can see the nice traffic spike, and we'll see what happens
Hell
here.
yeah.
It's a pretty well designed site, and I'm into it.
Nice.
So
Well,
how's
thank you
everything
for your
been
kind
other
words.
than
Appreciate that.
super hot?
Okay, yeah. So someone's already said something. My hair blowing right now is not for dramatic effect, though. That is a lovely side effect. The AC in my house broke as soon as I got home from work today. I walked in, I was like, wow, that's not much better than outside. And I checked and it was 78 degrees. And since then, it's only gone up. And it's 81 degrees in my house right now. And it's already hot in my office when the AC is working. So, um, hopefully I don't look it, but I'm kind of melting and miserable. But we got the fan running, and that's so I literally don't pass out because that might happen otherwise. In general, geez, things have been busy. I saw John said that I've been MIA in the Discord. I do feel bad about that, to be honest. Things at work have been like really awful and taking up a ton of my time and energy, and we don't need to get into it, but it's been pretty miserable. And then things in my personal life have been going really well, and there's a lot of exciting things happening there, a lot of lovely things. And the side effect of both of those things is that I just don't have any energy anymore because they're being occupied with things both positive and negative. But
Right.
I'm not sleeping or doing much in the way of, yeah, really. And also so they made me come back to the office at work, which is not great. But there's like internet connection blockers in there or something. So like I have the Wi-Fi password, and some sites work, but Discord is not one of them.
As
And
a firewall.
and then if I disconnect from that and I just use my data, it's so slow I can't load anything. So like at work was my only time to like just be reading Discord all day, and now it's been taken from me. It's not cool.
Lame.
Mm.
Well, we got a handful of people at least who we can say hello to. Silent Mandible, what's going on? Josephine DeMarco, welcome. I saw and read all of your chats before we went live. I do want to ask Celeste about this one. Love and Other Catastrophes from '96. Have you seen that one?
No, I've never heard of that. I'll have to check that out.
I have not seen it either. Brian checked in before he went to a Korean movie in a theater, and he's going to come back for the sales in a little bit. Griff
Nice.
is here. Hello, Griff. Dustin, a reason to celebrate. The diabolically delightful Celeste is on with Ryan tonight.
I love the descriptors you all come up with. That's a good one.
Dustin, not to make Dustin blush at home or anything. Dustin writes amazing reviews of films on Facebook and doesn't post them in the Discord. Come put them in the Discord, my friend. We want to
Are
read
they
your...
at least on Letterboxd?
That's a good question. I'm not entirely sure.
Because if it's just a matter of copy pasting, they should be on Letterboxd. You know.
I agree. Paul is here. Well, actually, I should say the Pauls. We got Paul Berryman and Paul Huggins. Hello. Barry, Ken, Sibiner, like I said, Ronnie, Jake is here, Mitchell, Nicomedes, ZPAM, KB, friend of both of ours.
Hey, KB.
RB. Gavin is here tonight. What's going on, Gavin? It's been a while. Sardis, Songs from the Second Floor, one of my favorite films. Nice. This
hey,
scrub
Will,
is
what's
here. Hey, I changed the date, Ronnie. I promise. I made it say June. You might have to refresh, but it's there.
I'm always living in the past. It's called anxiety.
And a love of the Gothic Renaissance period.
Yeah.
Tony's here. What's going on?
Hey, Tony. What's up?
Welcome back, Celeste.
Hi, Sardis.
I think we're going to have a lot of good questions during our discussion tonight. Sibner has some. Terry says, hello, everyone. Been a good week. Watched a bunch of great stuff. John says, there's Celeste. Joe.
Yeah, I feel like I've been MIA in general in these spaces. And so seeing all these nice comments is nice. I just have been, it's been a lot lately. So, you know. But at least it's good and bad. I'm not just like in mental health crisis mode like I usually am. So that's good.
Literally, as I was about to say, I'm glad you're here and okay.
Yeah.
Mondo's here. Carrie Mulligan, welcome back. Excited for Bad Biology in a few hours. Doesn't look like they're using the DVD cover art. Yeah. What's going on, Blake? Mondo says
spaghetti in the house. Yeah.
Nice. Tony is making us jealous. He says it's freezing cold in Sydney right now.
God, I wish. I have so many comfy ass long sleeves I could be wearing, but I gotta like melt instead. Jesus.
Tom in Minnesota, hello. Feeling the heat from Celeste.
Well, you know.
I felt the like cartoonish rubbing together. Oh, shucks.
Well, you know.
All right. Oh, Dude McMahon's here. Hello. What's going on, dude? Celeste, do you have any tips on keeping cat hair off of the video shelves?
The video shelves? I don't know. Get a robot vacuum. That's what I do. The cat hair. Okay, I as a person who dresses in many different colors all the time and has a white cat, it's a nightmare. I'm constantly brushing hair off of my clothes, and honestly, I don't really notice them on the shelves too much. Or if I do, it pales in comparison to like what's on the rug or like the couch or just me at all times. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. A vacuum, I guess, is all I got. Sorry.
Well, and the other big thing, not to give the obvious answer here, but regularly groom the cat. If you brush it, there'll be less hair.
Oh, you know what's great? My cat, the one that has like 1 million feet of hair at all times and is also white and so shows up on every single thing we own, hates being groomed so much that he throws up if we try to do it. So that's awesome.
That's some extreme cat anxiety. Yeesh.
He gets angry, he screams, he bites us, and then he throws up sometimes.
Yikes.
So, super cool.
Well, we've got a kind of crazy busy night tonight because we obviously want to give a lot of love and respect to the topic at hand tonight, but also it's the Severin Sale going live at midnight Eastern. So we're going to make sure that we are talking about Severin tonight. And I was thinking about this. I don't know that I know your thoughts on any Severin title. So we're going to have to get into some of that because you don't really talk about Severin all that much.
I have at least one pulled for tonight, so that's cool.
Awesome. Okay. Any recent pickups or watches that you want to highlight super quickly?
Recent pickups? Shit. Today I got in from Vinegar Syndrome, or I guess from AGFA specifically, the Glow documentary, The Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. I don't know why they sent that to me separately. I thought that they were going to bundle it with the Showgirls replacement disc, but they just kind of sent me one thing. I was like, man, I got an order separately too. I got enough stuff of yours to watch. You can save the $3 on shipping. It's chill, you know, but like it's cool. After watching the Hitman Heart documentary, okay, so like I've never been a wrestling fan, and I still don't think I'd ever actually sit down and watch wrestling, but as a kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Anthropological sort of curiosity. I find
why I love it.
Fascinating to like learn about some kind of cultural. I don't know. It's like sports films. I don't like sports, but I like films about them.
Yep.
So there was that one. I got in the Night of the Hunter 4K, and it was scratched, so I'm waiting on my replacement.
Ouch.
Yeah, I've got a ton of stuff. And I have one video shot about it. I just haven't edited it, so that's cool.
Interesting. Any recent watches you want to highlight?
Any recent watches? Some of them are right here because I did want to try and catch up a little bit. Like there's stuff that I wanted to talk about that I didn't get around to watching, so that's unfortunate. But yeah, I guess we'll get into that a little bit later.
All right, so let's just jump straight into the announcements. Tony is trying to get some spoilers. Says, "Are you over the monthly budget again, Celeste?"
I think you'll be surprised. That's all I'll say.
All right, jumping straight into it. Here we go. First thing we got last week after our show was the Severin announcement of Fulci's release of The Psychic from 1977. This is coming from Severin starting tonight, and this will include the U.S. premiere of a documentary called Fulci Talks. And this is going to be very interesting because it's got a 4K disc, it's got 2 Blu-ray discs, and then it also has the CD soundtrack on this. Now, this is probably the first time that a lot of people are going to be purchasing this film, and we will absolutely be talking about this more when we start getting to the sale coverage. But first of all, any thoughts on Fulci or The Psychic? Have you seen this one before?
I've not seen this one before. It is on my watch list on Plex, but I have not seen it yet. Fulci, though, I've been like really into that shit lately. He's like the real, like, he's for the freaks, like the real nasty shit. Like he gets it. He's on the level,
Always.
I've been into that. I watched the whole like Gates of Hell trilogy. I watched A Cat in the Brain, which was something else. Yeah, I've been digging the Fulci nastiness as of late. So this was a fun announcement to see for sure. Also, that cover, like that original poster, is like so sick. I'm a fan of that.
All of the key art for this is very good.
Yeah.
All right, we will talk more about The Psychic in just a little bit. Next one up, we got some details on the 4K release of The Girl from Rio from Blue Underground. This is coming from Blue Underground on September 26th on 4K. This is yet another Jess Franco film that is coming. And this one, we talked about it previously, but if you don't remember, it says in the tradition of Barbarella and Danger Diabolic, and it goes through the details there, but that's the sort of film if you know either one of those. So the extras that we are getting. This is a world premiere of a new Dolby Vision HDR 4K restoration. It's got subtitles in English, French, and Spanish. Region free, of course. It's got the embossed slipcover coming, but then the actual extras. New audio commentary with Nathaniel Thompson and Troy Howarth. New interview with the man, the myth, the legend, Stephen Thrower, author of the Jess Franco Bible, basically. We got an interview with the director, Jess Franco, producer Harry Allen Towers, and star Shirley Eaton. Those are all archival. And then there is a new piece on here, which is additional scenes from the German version. There's also a Riff Tracks version on here, which... I don't know. I tend to not watch those versions myself. I'm not a huge fan.
No, I'm generally not a fan of just like shitting on things for the sake of shitting on it, and like that's your content, and like that's like your bit, I guess.
Right.
I don't know. That's the kind of thing I enjoyed when I was like 15. It's just like it feels. Now I feel like I'm sounding pretentious, but like the whole Mystery Science Theater, like there's a way to do it well, but I feel like most people think they can do it when they're just being like nitpicky and rude. I don't know.
I also feel like it would be much more enjoyable if you were a huge fan of the film before you saw the Riff Tracks version. Like you'd seen a film like 15 times and then it got riffed. That's different.
Yeah.
What about Franco? I don't think I've heard much from you on Franco either. Have you seen any Franco films?
Yeah. I've seen, I think, 3. I did that double bill that I got in my Vinegar Syndrome package.
Yep.
the like kind of weird spy thrillers.
Yep.
My review for that on my channel is pretty scathing. Like I can't even see the appeal in it, to be completely honest with you.
I
And
get it.
like I watched She Killed in Ecstasy before that, I think, and I was like, this is kind of bad. I don't know about this one. But I know there's about 10,000 films left for me to find one that'll click, but I'm convinced there's at least one good one, right? There's got to be. But so far,
He
it's
has
been
some straightforward horror titles that are actually pretty decent, but I get it. Let's go to the next one. Pride Month sale happening from OCN Distro. That is, not happening now. June 23rd to the 27th. Hope you guys took advantage of that, even though we got more sales from them starting on Saturday.
Yeah, there was some good shit in there. Some of which we might be talking about later. We'll see.
Ooh. And then we got 3 random incredible announcements from Kino over the weekend. The first is that they are releasing Fletch and Fletch Lives, the sequel. Both of these are coming as brand new 2K Masters. Once again, no release date, no extras announced yet, but those are both coming. I'm kind of surprised they didn't go 4K at least on the first Fletch. I imagine that would have sold extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a Fletch person or Chevy Chase at all?
Chevy Chase, I can't stand. I've never heard of this one though, so I don't know.
Fletch is fun. The first one's fun. The second one isn't great.
There's not even a particular reason for that. He gives me bad vibes. I don't know.
Everyone that works with him says he's an a-hole. So
yeah, I've heard rumblings of that my intuition was confirmed, but
very curious about how they do.
He just strikes me as very much like dad comedy, like stuff my dad would think is really funny and that I would have to suffer through. I don't know, that kind of thing.
So Will sent a comment here that says Franco cannot be appreciated on a single film basis. It's the slow accumulation of experience watching Franco films over time. As the world shapes and molds us, so too Franco insinuates himself within. So basically you're saying I have to be depressed through Franco to enjoy Franco.
You sound like as a Blady fan, this is what we sound like. We're like, bro, it sucks at first. I probably like it gets good. I promise. Like you're gonna think it's horrible, but give it a moment. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't love Chevy Chase in the comments. Good to see. But then this was the even bigger one for me. Kino is releasing The Monster Squad on 4K UHD. Was this a big film for you? Have you seen this one?
I have never even heard of it until it was.
You've never heard of The Monster Squad?
Yeah.
Well, we had a good run, Celeste. No, I'm kidding.
No, I get it. It's fine.
This is incredible, and I think you'll really like it. It is so well
cheesy
done.
as fuck. I'm into that. Looks fun.
It is. It's like a Universal Monsters riff on the Goonies, kind of.
Ooh, fun.
And
yeah, that sounds like a good time.
It's so good.
Nice.
So good.
Well, hey, stuff like this is like, I'd never even heard of this, and like everybody who I trust is really excited. So now I'm excited, and now I get to have a new fun thing. Like that's good for me. I'm into that.
Dustin says you will be obsessed, and you made John Gray sad.
Sorry, bud. I don't know.
Just I love
that one, I guess.
Sibner says this is more than day one. You have to get this the day before day one.
Would that be like a pre-order?
Probably. And yeah, of course, this is going to come with a slipcover and all that stuff. So it'll be good. Yeah.
I seem to have touched a nerve somewhere. Like, I don't know. I straight up have never heard of it. I don't know what to say. I'll check it out for sure. People are like, yo, this is like your shit. So I trust that. There's enough of my opinions out there at this point that I think people can make an educated guess on what I'll like. So
yeah, and just like any of the 80s stuff, there's some, kind of questionable homophobic jokes. For sure. But yeah,
you gotta have your standard issue slurs if you want to make a good 80s film, right?
You gotta to not be R-rated. You gotta have less than one F word, basically, and more than 6 of the other F words. I'm just kidding.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No F word, F slur.
You're good. Sorry. Yeah, F word then F slur. Raven Banner in Canada is releasing Mad Heidi. This is coming in the middle of July. This was previously released by Umbrella in Australia, and it also came out as a media book from one of the German companies as well. Supposedly, this is amazing. I need to see this really bad. Death Rattle. How have you not heard of Fletch or the Monster Squad?
It's because I'm 13 years old. All of this is new to me.
This is amazing. Moving on. So the next Severin announcement. This was Nightmare, also called Nightmares in a Damaged Brain. This one is coming on 4K. This is from 1981. And they are giving quite a bit of stuff on this release. We got a commentary with the star Baird Stafford and a special effects assistant Cleve Hall, moderated by Liev Christian and David Decateau. I said that wrong again on purpose because every time I say that way, everybody says it's Dakota. Commentary with producer William Paul. The Blu-ray, you got the same commentaries as above, plus some interviews. You got an interview with the erroneously credited Tom Savini, who was not actually the special effects director on it. So I'm very curious to have that in.
What a bizarre special feature. I saw that too when I was reading it. I was like, that's fun.
Locations tour.
Interview people specifically not involved.
Exactly. Locations tour with Rue Morgue's Michael Gingold, interview with makeup artist Robin Stevens, and then another Blu-ray that has the very British obscenity David Hamilton Grant called Damaged. That's 71 minutes. And then 4 rare short films, which is really cool. Like, this is a solid release. You got a 4K disc and 2 Blu-ray discs.
Yeah, it's a lot. Hi, Jeremy.
He's very excited to see you.
I see that. Well, I'm excited to see him too, so it's good. See, this is a problem. I'm not an 80s kid. I think there's a large I feel like a lot of people in this community are in the same age group, and
They are.
not. And so people will get really excited about something I've never heard of.
Yeah.
I think it's just a generational thing, but
Well, and funny enough, it happens to me too, because I'm not old. I'm not really young. I think I'm younger than the average collector, though. When I look at the analytics on the channel, most of the people are like 44 and above on my channel, which is wild.
That's interesting. I have a decent amount of those, but I think most people are like in my age bracket, which is fun. There's like nobody under 18 watching my shit, which is probably for the best, but
I was born in the 80s, but you can't really call that being an 80s kid. I was only, I probably only said a handful of words in the 80s.
An 80s baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeremy, you look good for 21.
Jeremy, you wish you were 21.
I don't. I was having a bad time.
This one is still weird to process, and I don't want to give this a ton of time, but this is wild to me. I posted an interview with this week with Richard Bamer, who was in the original West Side Story. I can't really fathom that I interviewed Tony from West Side Story.
West Side Story is whatever. He was in fucking Twin Peaks.
Yes, but when you think about the timeline, the fact that I interviewed somebody that was in a major motion picture hit in 1961, the dude was engaged to Sharon Tate, and I interviewed him.
It's
crazy.
Yeah. Because of my aforementioned work struggles, I haven't watched this yet, but I promise you I will get to it. And I was very excited for you when you posted it. So
thank you.
I'll definitely be watching that. Behind on all my YouTube pals because, I have to work for a living. I know it's very problematic.
But I also appreciate yours lately because shorts are really easy to digest.
That's very true. It's all I fucking got time for anymore, and it's even that's kind of hard. So we're working on it.
Especially those comments, eh?
Oh, it's great. It's really awesome.
With Nightmare, Severin is releasing a novelization that was done by Michael Gingold from Rue Morgue, and a lot of people are super excited about this. Severin is just on top of this novelization game.
Yeah, that's fun. I don't read, but that's not entirely true.
I get that. One of Celeste's favorites, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This is coming out on August 1st. We got a nice roundup of features on here, if this is your thing, you've got a handful of featurettes, some deleted scenes, gag reel. James Gunn actually does a commentary for it. Pretty standard Marvel job.
Marvel
And I was going to say marvelous, but that sounded better. They're also releasing it as a steelbook because, of course,
yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you?
you got to have that money.
Yeah.
Speaking of steelbooks, Studio Canal is releasing U571 on 4K in France and Germany on this glorious steelbook. It was odd timing with the current events that was happening to announce this, but I imagine this will likely be coming to the US eventually. And with the way Studio Canal does licensing, they'll probably be putting this pretty much all over the world.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thanks, Christopher. That's very sweet. I appreciate that. Speaking of those events you were just talking about, I was listening to the new Behind the Bastards podcast episode on it today, which I highly recommend. It's very enlightening, and it's like way crazier than you think. So that's completely off topic, but it was apropos to my listening today. So
I appreciated all of the scientific responses I saw to the incident. People explaining the imploding and the difference in pressure and all that and why it happened. There's a lot of people that had no idea that could happen. So I was glad that people took the initiative to share that appropriately.
Hey, Ken, what's up?
The other one, Studio Canal, is also releasing Cutthroat Island on 4K. This is from 1995. I'm astonished this is getting a 4K release. I didn't think this was big enough to get a 4K release. Have you seen this one or heard of this one even?
I've never heard of this one.
It's a lot of people haven't. This one is not huge. I mean, kind of. It's one of those 90s big movies.
It looks like, I don't know, it looks very Spielberg to me, like that kind of thing. Or at least that's what it's trying to be, you know?
Yeah, I always felt like this was swashbuckling Princess Bride.
You got it. That's kind of already what that is. So, you know, we just kind of lean into that. That sounds fun.
I don't know why I can't say that word. I'm very tired.
It's a bit of a weird one. I mean, how often do you say swashbuckling?
True. Very true. This is one I'm actually excited for. Sleepy Hollow from 1999 is getting a 4K steelbook and standard release from Paramount. And I think they did a good job with the art and all this. Yeah. Even the orange banner, I actually kind of vibe with for the Halloween season.
Yeah, for sure. Lots of kind of shitty people associated with this at this point, but I do love the film, and that artwork is sick as fuck. So I'm definitely going to be grabbing that steelbook for sure.
I love it. And the detail on that's going to look really good in person.
Yeah, it's nice. Like this is one where it's all about the aesthetic. So like I'm glad that they put an amount of effort into getting something good out there, you know?
Yeah, this is definitely a vibe film. Like this is not a really good film, but man, it's fun just to hang out with. Next,
certified Molgoth classic.
Yes. Next up, Paramount is releasing Smile as a 4K steelbook. Not even a year after they released the 4K standard, so a lot of people are already complaining about this. I believe all the special features on this were also on the standard release, but steel looks okay.
It's a little weird looking. I've seen the film, actually. I thought it was okay, but like it doesn't. I don't immediately associate that image with what I watched, I guess. I don't know.
Not at all. It reminds me of the guy from the second Conjuring movie. I don't remember what they call it, the Hat Man or the Tall Man or whatever. Yeah, I don't think it was the Tall Man.
Yeah, Jeremy, I'm pretty sure we're hanging out. If I can make it, I'll be all right.
Celeste is not required to, but I will be here until after it's live. Yes,
I'll be here. I'll be all right.
Okay, this one is kind of new. August 16th, RLJE and Shudder is releasing From Black. This is a brand new 2023 film. It says a young mother crushed by guilt after the disappearance of her young son 5 years previously is presented with a bizarre offer to learn the truth and set things right. But how far is she willing to go, and is she willing to pay the terrifying price for a chance to hold her boy again? I'm glad there's no answers on that, but the questions that I have in response to that are interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up, I don't cover a lot of
Fun.
Dark Force stuff all the time, but they are releasing Death Ship from 1980 on 4K. Have you seen this one yet?
No, I mean, I love that poster. I hope I don't slander some innocent people. Isn't Dark Force the like really sketchy one that like antagonizes customers and such things?
Yeah, this is the one that that's why I usually don't share a lot of their stuff, because even in the comments on this one, they were really awkward about stuff. So
really, are there more comments than what I can see on screen?
Well, it's on their announcement that it got weird. So
okay.
Yeah,
I thought they pulled up to your page and were being freaks about it, and I was like, that's fun.
Dark Force defending themselves on my stuff. So on their page, let's see some of the things that happened this time. Somebody commented, and I think the person that commented this, it watches the channel, so I won't say a name, but it sucks you're leaving all the extras off from these, all the extras off of these from prior releases. And they said, legitimately, this is their response. If we can get Jeff Brown inside a steel cage for 3 minutes, we'll include the extras on every release. But be prepared to pay a lot more for extras that are not new and a lot of people already have from prior Blu-ray releases. That doesn't make any sense to me.
What a strange thing.
3 minutes in a steel cage for extras is an odd trade.
Yeah. Great business strategy, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I dropped out of business school, but I don't remember that lesson at any point.
That came later.
Oh, yeah, that's the graduate program, how to antagonize customers.
Yep. Some announcements from Discotheque this week. Coming soon, we are getting Jeans Blues No Future from 1974. This is coming to their Neon Nights line. And this has a girl, a boy, and a killer in pursuit. This is basically a 70s Japanese Bonnie and Clyde, starring Miko Kaji from Lady Snowblood.
Neat.
Dark Force treated me like crap when I politely asked about missing extras on a release, never buying from them again. I understand that, Dustin.
Well, this is such a bustling industry that like you can definitely afford to just like piss everyone off, you know?
Yeah. Nothing's dying at all. It's not been ringing the death knell for 25 years. This one...
People are going to click that, get you in trouble. I don't know. It's a hot button issue.
Yeah. Coming soon from Discotheque as well. Recently, My Sister is Unusual. This is a live-action version of the anime, and it says, like the anime, only dirtier. Very racy live-action adaptation. Contains both the theatrical and the 18-plus home video version. Extensive behind-the-scenes segments and cast and crew interviews. I don't know how their sister's unusual, but it's happening.
I could take a guess.
The Severin Films policy page. He's sleeping through the ICU.
Oh, yeah, I know.
We are going to talk about the Severin Films policy page as soon as we are done with the actual announce. Well, after the Queer Cinema Talk, we'll go to the policy page. This is coming, I promise. Poker Face Season 1. This is coming from Paramount on September 12th, coming out on Blu-ray, not 4K, Blu-ray. This is the Natasha Lyonne film that got rave reviews. Nice. This was directed by Ryan Johnson, and I've heard this is incredible. I've not given this one a chance yet.
Me neither, but big fan, so I'll check that out for sure at some point.
Natasha Lyonne's amazing.
Yeah.
We already talked about that one. TerrorVision announced a release of Parasites from 2016. This one says, a group of friends get lost in inner city Los Angeles and find themselves ensnared in a hellish trap set by madman Wilco and his feral horde of unhoused lunatics. Night darkens and the horrors compound as the survivor fights his way through alleys and gutters on a gruesome one-way trip to hell. Supposedly, this is supposed to be a pretty great movie. I've not seen this one before. I don't think I'd even heard of it before.
I don't think most people have. I think I looked it up and it had like 10 views on Letterboxd or something.
Oh,
so like, it's pretty much a deep cut, I think.
This says it's got a Carpenter-inspired synth score, which is exciting. They say this has a new commentary with Chad Farron, Robert Milano, Robert Ryan, and I thought it was Sylvia, but it looks like it says Saliva. Saliva Spross. A making of documentary, deleted
Wait, like
and
the
alternate.
band? Are we having
No,
like a
it's
butt
not even
metal
spelled
interview?
properly. Saliva. I don't know. Deleted alternate scenes, making of footage from the Shriekfest premiere.
Thanks, video store review. That's very sweet.
Favorite of the guest. Nice. Next up from TerraVision, they put out Video Violence on VHS. Did you watch Video Violence?
I bought it. I haven't watched it yet, but I've actually been pretty into the SOV stuff lately. So I'm excited to check it out.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, honestly, because that used to be a whole section of stuff I could just be like, cool, not interested. I don't have to spend money on it. Now I'm like, wait, this is kind of fun. I don't know. There's some real depraved shit in that stuff, and
there really
it's
is.
got a really nasty, kind of grimy aesthetic.
I've got an interview that is coming out on Monday that is covering one of the SOV releases that is getting announced on Saturday, and it sounds incredible. So if you love SOV, pay attention to OCN on Saturday.
Hell yeah.
Next up, Cult Epics is releasing Broken Mirrors on August 15th. This, the synopsis for this is written so wild. It says, situated in an Amsterdam brothel, two whores rebel against their lot in life. Meanwhile, one of their customers, a serial killer, kidnaps a housewife. It sounds so aggressive.
I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
New 4K transfer on this, audio commentary by film scholar Peter Vestraten, interviewed with U.S. sex worker Margot St. James, promotional gallery, trailers, and the like.
That's a broad category of professions. I'm curious who that is. I'll have to look that up.
It really is. Just got red lips on the VS sale. Nice.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. That was in the Pride Month sale, I believe.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Cinema Guild is releasing Dos Estaciones on August 1st. This says, winner of a special jury prize at the Sundance Film Festival, Dos Estaciones follows iron-willed businesswoman Maria Garcia, the owner of Dos Estaciones. I've said that 3 times already, and it sounds like a made-up word now. A once majestic tequila factory, now struggling to stay afloat. The factory is the final holdover from generations of Mexican-owned tequila plants in the highlands of Jalisco, the rest having folded to foreign corporations. Once one of the wealthiest people in Iowa, Maria knows her current financial situation is untenable when a persistent plague and an unexpected flood cause irreversible damage. She is forced to do everything she can to save her community's primary economy and source of pride. Sounds good. And it's got a whole bunch of extras, got some nice features, a lot of time in the features, actually. You got a Q&A.
Who is this from again?
Cinema Guild, which they do some of the like foreign art house stuff.
Nice.
Man. Yeah, this one looks good. Again, we'll talk about Severin. These are pictures of all their bundles. Might bring this back up in a little while since it is so descriptive.
I just got a cool $350 lying around, so I'll be sure to use that up.
I mean, it's fair. Everybody.
No, I'm not knocking it. I'm just like, Jesus Christ! You really had to hit us with the,
I think the hard part. Well, we'll get into the pricing a little bit. I don't want to spoil that discussion.
Yeah.
September 5th.
Strange tagline this has. I have been thinking about it since I first read it. The assumptions this makes, I just can't get over.
Well, anyway. And the funny thing, the way this cover looks, let's get into this. So September 5th from Kino, they're releasing The First Time, of course, from 1969. No features on this other than a trailer. The tagline, funny, nobody thinks about a boy when they say the word virgin. That's awkward in itself. You look at the cover, you don't think that this is going to be anything like what the synopsis states. This looks like a French romantic drama.
Oh, it does for sure. Yeah.
And then the synopsis, the first words, 3 teenage buddies. What? 3 teenage buddies meet the woman of their wildest
Virgins,
fantasies and
presumably.
mistakenly think she belongs to the world's oldest profession in the first time. Kenny, Mike, and Tommy have only one thing on their mind, and it isn't baseball. At a Canadian summer resort, they meet the stunningly beautiful Anna, played by Jacqueline Bisset, and believe she has no passport. She must be a prostitute. Under the imagined spell of her allure, they help her cross the border into the U.S., where the four check into a motel. But comedic mayhem ensues when the inexperienced high schoolers are reduced to behaving like scared little boys when they realize they're not ready to take the plunge into manhood.
The plunge. Huh.
The plunge.
This sounds like a really bad sex comedy, and the title and the tagline confirm that, but the name of the director, or no, that's who's in it. Yeah, the poster totally looks like some artsy French shit, you know?
Yep.
This sounds like the last, yeah, really. I don't know.
And it's co-written by the guy that did Play Misty for Me, which, interesting.
I don't know.
Moving right along.
Yeah, let's do that.
It Takes Two from 1988 is also coming from Kino.
What a frightening poster this is.
It's very weird.
I don't know.
All right. You Hurt My Feelings from this year is coming from A24. I've heard this is amazing. Did you see this one?
No, I haven't. But Nicole Holofcener?
Yeah.
I hope I got that right. She's great. She had a bundle of films on the Criterion channel when I first subscribed.
Ooh.
And one of the first things I did was make it a priority to watch all of the female directed films that were leaving at the end of each month. And so I watched all 3 of those, and they're just really good. Lovely and Amazing is my favorite one of hers. That film is really special. Friends with Money is her most mainstream one, and if you find a DVD of it, it looks like a very kind of average 2000s rom-com kind of deal, but I think it's quite good too. And Please Give is the other one that I watched. That one's weird. That one's very it's very almost self-indulgent in how autobiographical and just sort of very concerned with her own moral conundrums and stuff like that it is. It's a little bit of a strange watch, but yeah, it's definitely really good too. I didn't know that she co-wrote that. That's interesting. That's very different from all the films that I've seen of hers. So
co-wrote The Last Duel, and Walking and Talking is really good. That's the other one I remember.
So yeah, it was. I was excited to hear that this was out and that it was also good. Yeah,
this has gotten pretty great reviews, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus is just one of the funniest people of all time. I love her.
I like the name too. It's a vibe.
The cover of this does not make her look very funny, and I want to know what is going on. This looks like awful Photoshop on this head. I don't know if that's just me, but it looks awkward. Finally, let's discuss the Full Moon sale for just a quick moment. Their 4th of July sale is on now. It goes from today until July 6th. 40% off on all kinds of stuff. They also said, stay tuned for a brand new collector's box dropping Friday, June 30th at noon Pacific Standard Time. So if you are a Full Moon addict, which some people really are, tomorrow might be something special for you. How do you feel about Full Moon? Are you into anything they've released? I feel like you'd like Tourist Trap.
Yeah, that's not me saying that I think it's bad. That's me saying that none of it has stuck out to me as something that I would... I don't know. I've thought about this before. Whenever I see one of their titles, I'm like, ooh, that looks pretty rough. But I don't actually have a good reason to think that. So, I don't know. Maybe people can recommend me some Full Moon joints that I can check out and make a more informed opinion about.
I would say Full Moon has different eras and sectors. I'm a big fan of Tourist Trap and Castle Freak. I'm not a big fan of the stuff that people know Full Moon for Full Moon. I don't love the Charles Band stuff, but the stuff that they distributed, I tend to like.
Don't they do like? Didn't they do like Attack of the 50-Foot Cam Girl or something like last year, like that kind of thing?
Yeah.
I don't know about all that.
Oh, that's a good one too. Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bolorama is fun.
Yeah, I don't have actually any kind of solid reason why I look at their stuff and I'm like, I don't know about that. It's just like vibes, and I get not the best vibes, but subspecies. I know people like those Puppet Master films, or at least the first one. I don't know.
There's 14 of them now. I think.
Sure.
I've definitely not seen all of them. I think like 3 of them are decent. Will adores a lot of Full Moon stuff.
That checks out.
And yes, Tourist Trap is very not like anything else from Full Moon. I agree. Okay, that was the end of the announcements. I guess we
Really?
can all. Yeah.
I thought we had more. Okay.
That was literally it. We can discuss what is coming next week. And let me get that pulled up because it's a different month. It'll take just a second. And this next coming week is actually pretty light on releases, which great because what we have from all these sales and everything is crazy. So we've got The Truman Show coming on 4K, Upgrade on 4K, Jaws 2 on 4K, Fighting Back from Arrow Video, some of the Mission Impossible steelbooks that they're doing. Face Off is finally dropping, Star Pilot from Raro, and that's kind of it. Nothing. Tintin, I guess, if you're into that, from Kino Lorber. The next week starts getting crazy again, but yeah, it's a holiday week, so not a ton coming out next week.
I'll definitely be getting The Truman Show at some point. Big fan.
Absolutely.
Of that one.
It's wonderful.
The rest of this, yeah, I don't know. Not that I'm like opposed to any of it. Well, maybe there's Mission Impossible steelbooks. I think that's kind of lame. But other than that,
I will say, I think I shouted this out last time, but if you've never seen Upgrade, it's an incredible movie.
I've heard good things about it.
You haven't seen it. I think you'd actually really like it. It's a nice take on something that we don't get a lot.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about it. It's probably one I'll rent to check out because Screen Factory charging $30 for like just a standard black case and like a couple features. I don't know. Like, yeah. But I think I heard you say that Second Sight might be doing one of those too. So
Upgrade, is that what you're saying?
Uh-huh.
I wasn't speculating necessarily. They put it out on Blu-ray. So I could see them giving it giving Upgrade an upgrade.
Yeah. Could be fun.
So we got some questions. Sibner said nothing about Story of a Cloistered Nun. I didn't see an announcement on that. And Jailhouse Wardress, I don't want to give too much away, but that might not actually be coming out. That has not been officially announced. MVD, I talked to Eric today, and he's worried about Elements. So that one might not actually be making it to retail. Flex, do I still do content with Flip? No. Flip is not making any content right now. Flip is having another kid and focusing on bodybuilding, actually. So, or weightlifting, whichever aspect he's doing at the moment.
One of those things where you pick up heavy shit.
Yeah, much heavier than I can pick up. It is time to break into our discussion, though, and I'm glad we're doing this early because this deserves a lot of space, a lot of seriousness, and a lot of fun as well. I mean, there's a lot of stuff associated with this that is incredible. So first, we're talking about queer cinema, and it's the end of Pride Month, and I wanted to make sure that we ended this on a positive note and be able to discuss something that's incredibly important. So, first, one of the things that I've been asked, and I wanted to give a shout out to Sardis, who sent me some questions, who was eager to discuss this. There are still a lot of people that look at the word queer as being a slur. Can you explain on your side if that is a slur to you, and if it is or is not, why, and just your history with that word?
So I don't know that I'm qualified, or even if it's appropriate for me to tell anyone else how they should feel about that word. But to me personally, even though I know that it has some history in that context, um, I personally don't feel that it has that same connotation or that same weight as some of the other slurs we might reach for as like probably
Right.
not the most appropriate words to be throwing around willy-nilly like that. The thing that I like about the word queer is that it is so simply all encompassing because we're describing something that is incredibly complex and is incredibly diverse. Um, and I think it's good to have a word that kind of encompasses all of that without creating too much gatekeeping. And like the to say like the LGBT community, I think is perfectly fine as well. When you're talking about the community as a whole,
Right.
but then you kind of inherently run into the issues of who is being excluded from an acronym like that, who is being prioritized in an acronym like that. Um, and to say I identify as LGBT is a little bit clunky and for some people not accurate if you actually break down what those words mean. Um, but to say that you're a queer person, it's actually, to me, I found it incredibly liberating, um, to just feel comfortable fitting in that umbrella, generally speaking. Um, at this point, I don't think anybody would give me a second glance if I said that that's how I identify. But when I was first exploring these aspects of myself, and when I was first um, kind of trying to talk myself out of it or whatever, that was one of the words where it just didn't feel like I had all of this weight of expectation attached to it. Like to just be a queer person to me feels like you are existing outside of the norm of what society has dictated sex and gender should be.
Right.
Um, and to me, there's something very powerful about actively rejecting that and creating a word, a term, in a community that embraces um, the ways in which different queer people have uh, kind of deconstructed and rejected that, and kind of come together under this large this large banner of uh, fucking weirdos. I mean, I guess some people could hear it and another definition of the word is like, oh, that's a really queer thing to say. Like that's very strange.
Right.
And some people take that sort of thing very personally. Like if you tell them that, like if you imply that they're a weird person, they probably won't like to hear that. But for me personally, that's how I've always felt. I've always felt a little bit out there, a little bit different from how I'm, I guess, supposed to be or expected to be. And um, to find a word that kind of encompasses that idea as it relates to sexuality and gender. Um, yeah, I think labels are important. I think that maybe people can get a little too hung up on them, but I think like labels are just another part of language. Like we need words to accurately describe concepts because otherwise, like we don't have any means of communicating that idea or relating to that idea or discovering that idea. Um, this is starting to feel like a very long-winded answer to that question, but for me personally, I think that it is a term that is inclusive and expansive and accessible, and I think that that is pretty cool.
I agree with that. I I did want to throw out a common similarity, and that is, the fact that we live in such a prudish society. This has come into play in other sectors too. One of the words that has been very similar, we actually just used in one of these synopses that felt aggressive, is the word whore. A lot of
Hmm.
people have reclaimed that as something that is sex positive because, 40 years ago, in the time that that film was made, people were called whores as this giant derogatory um, message. But for people nowadays, being called a whore is for some people just a point of pride. It's something that they embrace what they are and they see that their sexuality is just something that is inherently a part of them.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I would also consider myself to be someone who would reclaim a term like that. Um, I I didn't really touch upon this idea of reclaiming slurs, um, which is something that I think is incredibly valid and incredibly powerful and useful, as long as that movement or that push is coming from the in group, right? The group that's actually being affected by a word like that. Um, and so, from what I understand, at least as it relates to the word queer, that's something that the queer community itself has kind of pushed for. Um, and I don't know, like I just don't feel like it is that in the same way that some of these other words are. Like to hear a straight person say it is not like injurious or like a big deal or something like that. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just very simple and it's very direct, and it says a lot with very little, I think is what I'm getting at. So
It's used I don't know if this is just me saying it from the outside in, but you also see it used a lot less in malice today than even 15 years ago. It certainly was used in a more derogatory way. But yeah, usually now it's very positive. And now, to pivot that to our actual discussion, with cinema, like I don't even know. Do you know of a history of how the idea of queer cinema came to be?
um, when you asked me if I wanted to do this, I was very excited to do it, but I also am a little bit feeling underqualified to really sit
Same.
here and lecture on like the history of something like this. Um, I think I'm more qualified to talk about different ways that queerness finds its way in films, even before that sort of thing was even okay to talk about
Right.
openly, like all the subtext that is so clearly there in a lot of these films. Um, but to answer your question, let's go ahead and say no.
One of the things I did also want to call out is obviously having a gay character in a film is not what makes it queer cinema.
Hmm.
There's plenty of films that have had somebody that was gay primarily to be the butt of many jokes, and that is
Yeah,
not the same thing.
yeah. I actually thought about pulling some films that I think maybe approach this topic in a way that's more problematic or less celebratory, because I
Yeah,
think that those are part of the discussion, and I think that people can actually find a lot to take from films like that. Like to take, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't throw out names because some people get defensive, but like Silence of the Lambs or something like that is a pretty divisive and let's say difficult film for some queer people, specifically some trans feminine people, to watch.
yeah.
Um, or like a film like Dress to Kill is a tough one for me personally. Um, but there's a lot. I still think that there's a lot that we could take away from a film like that that's positive. Like Sleepaway Camp is one that I actually find to be very powerful and very
Yeah.
thoughtful and interesting, even if it's not intentionally so, even if it's just meant to be a shock gag. Like, I think that it actually says a lot of interesting things um, about gender. Um, I think that it's kind of, I find that film to be kind of empowering, to be honest. So the films like that, where they kind of influence the cultural moment in ways that are less savory, um, are definitely ones to keep in mind and are part of that discussion for sure. But I think for tonight, for our kind of Pride Month celebration, I thought we could just highlight some dope ass fucking directors, actors, and films. Uh,
You've got piles of cool shit next to you that you want to talk about.
I sure do.
Do you have any that were formidable for you, or are these mostly just I love these type of titles?
Um, that's a good question. You know, I'd have to think about that. One of the, I guess, my relationship to cinema as it relates to my gender identity and sexuality, it's definitely something that is always there.
Hmm.
Um, you know, like I think that art in general is something that I definitely rely on pretty heavily to process things and to think about things and to feel things. Um, and there's definitely films that I've watched that I found to be really enlightening or really powerful or really special. There's definitely ones in here that do mean a lot to me personally, though I don't know how many of them are like, what's the word you used?
Formidable.
Formidable, or like actually like helped inform my understanding in a more concrete way, I guess.
Right.
Um, I guarantee you, I'm gonna like wake up tomorrow and be like, except for that one, you idiot. Why didn't you say that one? But we'll see. For right now, yeah.
I get it. So, I mean, let's break into your stacks here. What do we got? What do you want to highlight first?
So there's a lot of different ways that we could kind of approach this. Um, I'm thinking about your question a little bit more, and there's films that definitely speak to me, and I get gender feelings about that are not queer films, but have
Interesting.
that. Like Eyes Without a Face is an excellent example
Yeah.
of that. We talked about that on our first discussion together.
Yep.
How that film, like, really means a lot to me personally, and really helped inform my understanding of myself, and gave me an aesthetic and images that spoke to me personally. Um, but that's not, I don't think any reasonable interpretation would call that like an actual like part of. I mean, you could. It depends on how you want to expand it, right? Like, I think it
Right.
would make a list of like films that have queer subtext or films that could fall into that general umbrella. But when we're talking about LGBT cinema or like queer cinema or something like that, I don't know that was not one that came to mind immediately. But looking at this stack, there are definitely ones that mean a lot to me personally. And looking at this stack, I'm not sure exactly how I want to break it up, because we could kind of do it by label. We could kind of go in like chronological order. We could kind of go in like just get some of the heavy hitters out of the way, and then kind of work our way to the deep cuts. I'm not really sure. So if there's any place in particular you want to start, we could go there, or
I want to start where you feel comfortable.
Okay, let's go. Let's start here. I like this. I want to talk about like one thing I really want to highlight is how much these ideas and people in the queer community, just how much influence that had on like classic Hollywood, and how subtext is so deeply important to the history of queer cinema and to the history of just queer people in general. It's obviously not okay or ideal to like marginalize a group of people so overtly that to even acknowledge their existence like is already a non-starter for your project getting off of the ground. But there's something to be said for the innovation and the clever ways that Gilda is so good. That's one that I don't own, but I would have pulled. That was one that felt very special to me when I watched it. I'm sure the chat is going to have lots of great suggestions for films I don't own or for films that I just completely forgot to pull. But sorry, I saw Gilda and I got excited. Now it's derailing. I was actually very tempted to just pull the Godzilla set and be like, yes, this is queer canon. I will not elaborate. What was I saying? Oh, subtext. There's something really beautiful about the ways in which people like me had to just survive and get our ideas and get our representation out there, even though it technically wasn't allowed, and the ways that we can look back and see how we've always been there, and see these struggles and these joys represented in ways that are less overt. I've talked about this in my videos before, but I think in some ways the fact that we can just that it's so open now can almost be a hindrance at times, where we can kind of just cynically cast a queer person or write in a queer character, and it's like, oh look, we got our representation now, but it doesn't actually say anything meaningful about those things or about those people. it's something that we can get into when I pull the film that I'm thinking about in particular. But like to start off with, I wanted to pull out the Universal monsters, and I want to particularly talk about James Whale and how the Invisible Man in particular is one that the second time I watched it, the most recent time I watched it, I was like, oh wow, this is like extremely gay, like really, really extremely gay. Like it's not
Yeah.
subtle at all. Like the queer camp here is like off the charts, but it's also like to me so clearly a comment on the invisibility, to be a little bit on the nose about it, of existing as a queer person in the 1930s and even today. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just really powerful, amazing film. And then Frankenstein too, this kind of construction of the misunderstood
Yeah.
gentle monster that is just kind of made into a scapegoat and destroyed. I don't know. Like if you want to tell me that you don't think that these ideas are present in these films, I think you might need to think a little bit more outside the box and think about like themes and subtext a little bit, you know, like yeah. So those are two films I wanted to highlight. I almost pulled The Old Dark House just because that's one of my favorite of his films, but
That's a good one.
these I think are more iconic and more influential and have those themes more, um, I guess, overtly represented.
It's a good pick. It's an important pick too. And
Yeah.
the people that made these films, you know, a lot of them, not to take it down another route, but just before you go into that, a lot of these people, because of the time, were all rooted in theater. And it's hard to
Mhm.
separate in the moment that theater was inherently gay for a lot of the time. I mean, there's so much that was you know, the trans identity based on the fact that so many of the female performers were actually men just dressed in
Mhm.
drag in so many of these performances. So it's, you know, it's rooted there in like literally most of time.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I guess also just what I kind of meant to say at the top of this discussion is like, you know, we're kind of living in a time where the more overt representations of these people and these ideas are sort of being shoved back into subtext and into the closet. We're just seeing overt like drag bans and like very naked attempts to outlaw trans people out of existence.
Yeah.
Um, and so to kind of, well, one, I want to thank you for highlighting this during this time. This has been a Pride Month of like very mixed feelings for me, because things are like really bad right now, but it's also like a time to be celebratory and focus on joy. Um, but it's kind of a scary time right now.
It is.
But like, I think we can look at our history and our current, the present, and sort of find strength and camaraderie in uh, the people who've been through it and the people who are going through it. Um, let's talk about more subtext. Why not? I brought this Alfred Hitchcock set. I wanted to talk about, well, two films in particular. Psycho is one that I think probably usually falls into that category we were talking about earlier of potentially problematic portrayals of gender nonconforming people, that I think you can actually find a lot of. Um, I think there's a read on the film that is positive, and I think that if you were a queer person and you told me that you found um, something to identify with in this film, I wouldn't argue with you. And yeah, John, damn it, I meant to pull Cabaret. Thank you. Cabaret is so good. I love it so much, and it's a really important film. So we'll throw that one out as a shout out too. Yeah, Anthony Perkins was a queer person, and like, I'm not sure how to say this, but like, Alfred Hitchcock was aware of these things. Like, gay people in Hollywood, it wasn't like you couldn't really say it, but like people knew, you know, and people knew the kind of things you could bring to the table with
Right.
that experience, you know. And Hitchcock knew. He knew who would get the best performance, and like, but the one I really want to talk about is Rope, which is maybe my favorite Hitchcock film, and is like literally like Be Gay and Do Crime, the film. um, it's so good. Like, it's so suspenseful and it's so amazingly written, but it's also like so gay, like so obviously. Like, I don't know. It's the sort of thing that kind of hides in plain sight, and
Yep.
that's kind of where it had to be for a long time. So, um, yeah, I mean, I guess I wanted to start with some like really obvious heavy hitters,
Yeah.
um, of like films that people might not think about in this lens, you know? Yeah. Because, I've got some pulled that are like, yeah, that's probably what you're going to think of when you think of queer cinema. But like, um, a lot of the biggest films of all time, if you think of like, if you kind of rewatch them using this lens, um, it's always been there, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's that one. Let's see. Here's another big one. Nightmare on Elm Street 2. My favorite Nightmare on Elm Street film, and one with a pretty. Oh no! Come say hi. It's totally fine. We don't gotta have a moment of silence. um, Everything that I could want to say about Nightmare on Elm Street 2, I think, was already brilliantly covered in the Scream Queen documentary, which I unfortunately don't own yet, but I want to really, really highly recommend. I think it's on Shudder, and then also you can buy it through OCN, ETR Media, I think specifically.
Yep.
That's an incredible documentary, and it really does a great job talking about the history of Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and really all facets of it. It's so good. Okay, let's do some more obvious ones. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is like, come on.
It's one of the biggest.
This is sort of like maybe the go-to, like the first one most people would probably think of. This is one that I watched when I was in college, before I had really started to think about these sorts of things for myself. And I watched it and I didn't get it. I was like, this is kind of annoying. I don't really vibe with this. And I think, I don't know, maybe there was something going on there, watching that and kind of rejecting it. This may be something to reflect on a little bit more. But having come to a lot of different realizations about myself, I wanted to revisit it. And my girlfriend Avery had never seen it. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a big blind spot, you know? She was like, yeah, I feel like a bad gay. I've never seen that one. And I was like, well, let's pick it up and let's watch it. And then I watched it again, and I was like, man, I don't know what I was on about back in the day, because this shit is so fucking good. Like, everything about it is perfect. And like, I'm trying not to read all these comments and like keep my train of thought going, but there's a lot of good comments.
I'll stop highlighting, and then when we get done with the title,
no, it's fine.
We'll talk about some.
You can keep highlighting them. I'm like reading the actual scroll as it's going by, and I need to not do that.
You can hide it, and I'll bring them up if you want.
I mean, there's something about adding a musical component to something that can kind of help stay with you. I find it so interesting and almost so hard to believe that something this, I guess, subversive and this out there and this deviant had the cultural impact that it did. It just kind of all in one film kind of created this culture and this experience where people could like experiment with cross-dressing and gender nonconformity and just being kinky weirdo freaks in like a scenario where it was okay for a day and you could kind of explore that. It's kind of like Halloween. Halloween, I know, is a time that a lot of queer people get an excuse to like actually be themselves for a night. And just the fact that this created a space for that, I think, is really beautiful, and important. And if you've never been to a Rocky Horror Picture Night, like a screening or whatever, it's a good time. And I think you'll find it enlightening. Yeah. the guy who made this has had some definite unfortunate comments since then, but like I don't think that that has to take anything away from what has really just become a beautiful like communal experience. Um, like the soundtrack is like really good. I will listen to that, you know, on its own, just because. Um,
How about before we say the next one? How does Rocky Horror stand up given use of that word?
I don't have a problem with that word if it's. I mean, obviously, if you're shouting that at somebody, that's one thing. But where that kind of goes into the. There's actually quite a bit of discourse in the trans community about that word, about transsexual, about the T slur, all these different words that have kind of been used to weaponize hatred. Um, that now just kind of describe more specific things, and people have kind of taken them on as like something that they personally identify with. Um, I know that there's a lot of people who personally identify with the word transvestite, and that's typically like men who enjoy dressing up as women just for fun, or like as a fetish or as a kink, which is like cool and good. Like I'm in favor of that. Like I think it's just one of many ways that we can kind of express and explore gender. Um, and I don't think that Tim Curry's character is necessarily like a trans woman that they're using that word inaccurately for. I
Right.
mean, it's definitely like up in the air, but I've always kind of, maybe in retrospect, you could kind of assign like a non-binary identity or something. But like, I don't think that that word is inappropriately used, and I don't think that it is used maliciously. Um, and it's made by queer people. Like, I I don't personally find it to be. I mean, I think there's aspects of the film that are a little bit problematic, and I know that there are queer people that have like uh, complicated histories with it. Um, and I know that that word is one of the points of contention. But uh, again, this is not to invalidate anybody's feelings or experiences. This is just how I personally sort of engage with it and think about it. Oh, that's fun. Riff Raff. What a great cat name.
Also wanted to point out Sardis's comment. This is great. I saw Rocky Horror Midnight Show and had no idea what it was about. Freaked out in the men's room where everyone was wearing corsets. I was doing acid at the time. Loved the film.
That's got to be one of the spaces where the bathroom kind of segregation becomes more and more meaningless, I
Yep.
guess. um, Another heavy hitter, like a really obvious one, and probably the first film that always comes to mind when people are like, "What's a good gay movie I should watch?" This is immediately where my brain goes, and that's "But I'm a Cheerleader."
Of course.
Um, this is one of my favorite films of all time, and this is one that I think had an impact on me that I didn't quite realize at the time when I first watched it. This was another one that I watched on the Criterion channel when I first got it or first signed up. It was some kind of limited engagement, leaving or otherwise, and I was like, that looks good, or I've heard it's good. I don't really remember how it ended up on my radar. But I watched it, and it's just so delightful, and the subject matter is horrific. Like if you to pull this off is like not easy. Like let's make a conversion camp comedy. Like who like you better know what you're doing if you're gonna try to pull something like that off. Um but it's just, I don't know, it's such a celebration of like just pure self-discovery and like lesbian love. And there's a lot of other issues that like it's actually very, it explores a lot of different aspects
Yeah.
of the queer experience in a relative, like I think it's like a tight 90 minutes or something like that. It's not
Something
terribly
around there.
long or anything, but like there's a lot of depth in here. Like, and it touches on a lot of different experiences. It's not just a lesbian story, you know? Um, but I think there's just something really powerful in taking something as traumatic as gay conversion therapy. It's not something that I've personally experienced, though I would argue that much of society is like a soft version of that that I've definitely experienced. Um, but like something about taking that that horrible system of like forcing somebody into something that they're not and creating like a triumphant comedy out of it is just something that I think really stayed with me. And it's something that I come back to often, and something that I'm always excited to show people who've never seen it. Um, it's also just really funny. Like, it helps that it's really good, you know?
Yeah.
Natasha,
Also, I mean, one of the things to throw out there is the timing of it. Like, that was a very bold movie to be made when it was made. Still,
Mhm.
it's not like this was an absolutely normal mainstream type film or anything yet.
Yeah, one of my favorite little things about it is on the original theatrical poster, it just has a quote from Roger Ebert that says, "A very funny movie," as if that communicates anything about what you're gonna see. Just like, yeah, it's like, ooh,
Oh man,
take the kids. Why not?
love
Take
it.
your mom. Why not? um, at the pace I'm going, we're gonna be here forever. I should probably pick up the pace a little bit. Um, I talked about this one on a recent guest appearance on Chasing Labels
Ooh,
podcast. Yeah.
good pick.
Um, I wanted to talk about the signifying works of Marlon Riggs. Falls into the more like, this is just really important stuff that you like everybody should be watching. And I know that it's relatively, I mean, before this came out, it was very obscure, but still, I feel like it hasn't caught on in the way that it should. Um, but Marlon Riggs was a gay black man who made a lot of like really beautiful and compelling and artistic like documentary essay films. Um, they're not really like anything else I could describe or that you might see. Uh, and they're just really singular. And this kind of representation and this kind of vulnerability is just really powerful and important. And I want to recommend that whole set. Tongues Untied is my favorite film in the set, and the one that most pertains to our discussion today. But I think that stuff. Is this Janice? I don't know. I think it's on the Criterion channel now. If you aren't able to purchase it,
Right.
um,
But also, Criterion Sale starts in 3 hours, I think. If you are into it,
oh shit.
it is one of the best times to get this set. It is a really important set, really well made set. This is one of the better releases from Criterion, especially the last few years.
Yeah, it's also his entire filmography, I believe.
Right.
One set, which is really cool.
Agreed.
Yeah, let's kind of start going a little bit rapid style here. There's another one for Criterion. This is Rouge. This isn't necessarily like a super queer film overtly, but Stanley Kwan is a gay man, and there are a few documentaries about that experience on this release. And like, you know, this is the kind of thing where you might not technically get away with exploring these ideas super overtly, but like they still seep through, and there's still a sort of sensitivity to this. And I'm talking too much again. You should check this out.
It's not too much. Your words are important.
Oh, thanks. Um, next one. This is another one that people have problems with. I know of one person in particular who really hates this, and to the point where like she kind of gets mad when it gets brought up. I don't personally identify with that read of it. I think that this is a really powerful statement on gender, as it is forced upon people and as it is chosen by people. Um, it's another musical, and it's really just I thought it was really special and really powerful. But again, this might be one that I'd have to recommend with trepidation for the type of people that this kind of content might affect. Like trans feminine people watching this could have a bad time with it, because I know that others have, but I found it to be really enlightening and powerful and subversive. It's also really edgy, so I guess some people might not like it for that reason alone, but you know, I'm a big fan. I'm gonna quickly throw out Mulholland Drive as like maybe the most accurate representation of gay romance gone awry, and the visceral pain that comes with an experience like that. Also, quick shout out to the shirt I chose to wear today. My
Nice.
David Lynch "Fix Your Hearts or Die" shirt. It's the kind of energy we need to be bringing uh, moving forward. Um, Gus Van Sant, My Own Private Idaho, Keanu Reeves, and River Phoenix in a really beautiful,
Solid.
tender performance in film. Um, this has a lot to say about like assimilationism, and like the kind of friction that comes from two people when one decides that they want to be accepted and the other decides that they want to be themselves. You know, um, yeah. Gus Van Sant is another important filmmaker, and this is probably the best one of his that I've seen. I think, or at least my favorite. Um, Pasolini, Salo. Um, I know, big meme film, but I'm like I defend this at every chance that I get because it's one of
Right.
my all-time favorite films, and I think it is extremely powerful and important. Um, Pasolini was a gay man, and this is his scathing indictment of fascist Italy. Um, I don't know, might be more relevant today than I'd like it to be. Uh, Here's one that's really personal to me: The Night of the Hunter, Charles Lawton. Um, Here's another one in that kind of tradition of subtext, where this is, I think, more overt, and I personally feel like is what ruined his career. Because Charles Lawton is an amazing actor, and like I didn't pull Island of Lost Souls, but if you watch Island of Lost Souls, like that dude's not fooling anybody. Like this is the most
Right.
queer camp shit I could think of. Like he's not hiding it, you know. Um, and I think it was an open secret in Hollywood that Charles Lawton was gay. And he made this film about like this extremely dark, powerful film about religious oppression. And I don't think it is that much of a stretch or that much of a secret to know what oppression he was facing by people like the character in this film, you know? And like this kind of, I don't know, I think people understood what was going on here, like what he was trying to say, and I think that it touched a nerve. Um, I probably need to do a little more research before I say something like that definitively, but I think he really went for it and made a very personal, scathing film. And I talked about this film more in depth. It was either with you or KB. I don't remember, but it's a film that's really special to me, and it would make my top five. Um, but yeah, this is another one that comes to mind pretty quickly when I start to think of films in this category.
Yeah, I think it would for me too, and it's a classic.
Oh, this is a good opportunity. Greg Araki films. He's like the fucking man. Like Mysterious Skin is one of the best and most important films ever made. I just don't own it, so I didn't pull it up here. But
Yeah.
this is as good a time as any to shout out the man Greg. I'm a huge fan. He's one of my all-time favorite directors, and I would recommend any of his films, at least the ones that I've seen, but especially that one. Ooh, I have a little stack of the man John Waters. Very special filmmaker and voice to me, personally. Uh, yeah, I don't know. He's so uncompromising in his vision and in the things that he says. Like
Yep.
these films are not. I watch them and they're too much even for me sometimes, which is like really saying something and is like also admirable to me. And then when I hear people that are like repulsed by this or like not into it, I'm like, I mean, that makes sense because I don't think it's for you. Like by design, I don't think it's for you, you know?
Right.
Um, this one in particular is like the most extreme version of the kind of thing he was doing. Uh, but it's maybe the most important of his works and the most significant of his works. I also have to talk about Divine for a second. Like, he was just incredible. And like, I don't know. I think it would do watching films like this in the kind of current moment of pretending like drag queens are some kind of like gaggle of like child abusers or something that has just become so prevalent in mainstream discourse, which is like really scary and also depressing. I don't know. There's something about how John Waters leans into these stereotypes and is like, this is what you think we are. So we're just gonna show you what that looks like and how absurd and like extreme your rhetoric really is when it's like actually taken to its logical conclusion. And it's kind of like a really, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, they're insensitive, and there's parts of these films that are like inexcusable and go too far, but like,
especially that one.
And like when you watch them, they're so gross and they're so offensive and they're so mean spirited, but they're also like so obviously not from a bad place. Like,
right.
Like these scenes that kind of make light of sexual violence. I don't think anybody is watching this and being like, oh, John Waters is a fan of sexual violence or like thinks it's like funny. It's like, it's kind of hard to describe, but it's just kind of a vibe that you get when you watch these, where it's like, there's just so much like irony, but also sincerity that goes into something like this. I think I was arriving at a point somewhere in there. Did I pick up Lust in the Dust? I don't know what that is. I'll have to check that out.
Vinegar Syndrome released with Divine.
Nice. I didn't know that they did one. Very cool. Maurice is my favorite. That is a beautiful, amazing film that I don't own, but it's a good opportunity to highlight it. It's a Merchant Ivory film. Yeah.
Which a lot of Merchant Ivory stuff, obviously, based on their situation, was very, very queer friendly, queer coded, queer subtext. There's a lot all throughout their filmography.
Oh, what I wanted to talk about, like, this is my favorite John Waters film, and it's a good opportunity because Tony just brought it up. This is my autographed copy of Multiple Maniacs.
Love it.
This is my favorite, probably because of how like overtly blasphemous it is, which kind of speaks to me personally. But there's just such a great scene at the beginning of this film, where they're like doing like a circus act, where they're literally just being gay, and it's like an attraction to horrify all the straight people. It's like, wow, come see a man really kiss a man, and like all this stuff, and it's like, it seems absurd. It's like an exaggerated like,
right,
oh, the horrors of just like existing as a queer person. But that's really how it's starting to feel lately, is like just existing. I often feel like a circus attraction, just like existing, you know, or like something that quote unquote normative society looks upon with horror just inherently. And there's just something about his films that revel in that hatred and in that like disgust that society so clearly feels for people like us and for like weird sex deviants and shit. Like, he's just kind of embracing it and amplifying it, and it's really great. I'm a big fan. This is my favorite. This is also signed. Polyester is kind of his take on like a Douglas Sirk melodrama and like a kind of lampooning of 1950s nuclear family American exceptionalism or whatever. It's real great. And then Female Trouble. I'm a big fan of Female Trouble. This is one I've kind of been itching to rewatch lately. There's some good bits in here. Good stuff. Yeah, the lobster scene. It's a good one. And the last two in my Criterion stack. Oh, go ahead. Whatever you're gonna say.
Sibner says, "Are you a fan of Call Me by Your Name?" Because for some reason that one just did not do it for me.
I didn't bring it up here. I do have it. I just haven't watched it yet. It's like one of those ones that feels so. It feels so obvious, and it feels so like hyped and like big that it's almost like intimidating. Like I feel like I gotta watch that and really pay attention and then like have an
Right.
opinion on it and stuff. I don't know. It's probably silly, but like Sufjan Stevens did music for it, and he's like one of my favorites. And so I've listened to those songs a bunch of times. But and I've, you know what? Another thing putting me off of it is I've heard things about it that I think are questionable, and I'm like, I don't know how much I am a fan of that, but I need to watch it for myself and have an opinion on it before I make comments like that.
Right.
Number 4 of all time. Wow. Did he sign over the title of polyester? He signed. So there's a bookstore in Baltimore called Atomic Books that stocks autographed editions of his stuff. You can actually order them online, but I was in town and grabbed a few. He signed the insert, but he also signed the poster that comes with it. So I'm actually probably going to get that framed at some point. So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
My last 2 criterions, which I want to take a second to say that when I was going through the different sections of my collection, my criterion collection was the one that I was like, oh, that one. Like they do a pretty good job of representing this stuff. I talked about this.
I hope there is one more label that you're going to say that is much more focused.
Well, okay, yeah, there's another one, but like in terms of the big ones that do everything, that aren't explicitly about that, right? That's not to say that anybody else is doing a bad job. I just wanted to give Criterion props for like putting out a lot of really important, really great works in this category. I talked about this on the Chasing Labels stream too, but Paris is Burning is like, I feel like I'm using a lot of the same words over and over again, which is hard not to do when I kind of have to do a rapid fire, like 10-second pitch on each of these things. But this really, truly is one of the most important films ever made. It's another one of these kind of really experimental, like artsy documentaries. I challenge you to watch this and like say you've seen anything quite like it. It's incredibly moving. It's incredibly informative. And like, again, this is the kind of stuff that I think we really should be pushing more is like, hey, we need to actually sit down and watch this stuff and engage with these cultures and these people as human beings and not as like caricatures or monsters or like, I don't know, cartoon characters that we can just kind of pretend aren't real people. Like, the joy in this and the suffering in this, like this is just one of the most human films I think I've ever seen. And it is hard in parts, but it is also affirming and joyous. And it's not very long, so go watch it. Got my stack going. And the last criterion is another obvious one, but like I'm just so glad that this took off in the way it did, and it's so like universally loved. It's Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Come on, like just come on. What am I going to say about this that people haven't already said? Like, come on. That's all I'm going to say is that over and over again. Like, go watch it, go buy it. Like, it's just it's a sapphic yearning. The film, you know, it's a vibe. But let me tell you. Here's one that I've been excited to talk about all day. I finally cracked this open. What a fun way to describe that once you see what it is. And watched one of the films on it. I didn't get a chance to watch everything on it, but this was something that I bought and was really excited to get into. It's the Fred Halsted collection. This is from Altered Innocence. And these are Fred Halsted was this is porn. Let's just get it out of the way. These are just straight up porn films. Sapphic Yearning, the name of my fucking, yeah. You get it. They're not just gay porn films though. They are like specifically like sadomasochistic kind of BDSM, really out there freak shit. Like, but they're also really beautiful and really, again, like when I watch a lot of these queer documentaries, there's always, and from what I've understood about queer cinema, there's always an inherent tie to the fact that the filmmaking itself is out there and a little bit strange and queer, as it were. And I think that might not make a lot of sense on the surface, as like, why must those things necessarily correlate? where you'd have queer filmmakers making queer films in ways that are queer. But I think the more of this type of thing you watch, the more that starts to make sense. Where like a lot of these films are just not made in the way they're not made in ways that are traditional or expected or standard or anything like that, you know? And so when you put on LA Plays Itself and you're being told this is a gay porn film, you're like, okay, I have an idea as to what I'm getting into here. And then you just start with about 5 minutes of like nature shots, and then you kind of get into it for a bit, and then you get like weird sort of overdubbed conversational dialogue over like overlapping shots of LA and different like kink clubs and like strip clubs and just all sorts of bizarre stuff. And then you kind of get into the real nasty shit. I don't even know how if I can describe what happens in this without getting your channel in trouble, so maybe I won't, but my jaw dropped at the end of this. I'll just say that. I didn't know what was achieved in this was possible, but I watched it happen, so I guess it is. But I guess what I wanted to talk about for this one for a second is I think in my experience, when I've kind of brought up this sort of thing, people are kind of like, oh, haha, you have gay porn in your collection. What a fun gag that is. Or like, what a funny bit. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but like this sort of thing is, here's this word again. Yeah, that is what happens. Here's this word again. This kind of stuff is really important and integral to the history of queer people and queer cinema, and just like the history of like human beings in general. Like this kind of documentation of like the edges of the human experience and like the most extreme forms of self-expression and sexuality. I think that stuff like deserves to be represented and discovered and preserved. And the Museum of Modern Art agrees, because that's where they sourced this print, is from their permanent collection. But like, this is something I especially wanted to highlight because I think that queerness and pride has certainly become very sanitized in recent years. And while I'm not the type of person that's going to be like, oh, that's a bad thing entirely, like I think that normalizing this, normalizing being a gay person or whatever, to the extent that is possible, is important. And like walking into Target and seeing pride merch is like, I think, a very good thing. But I think we start to lose focus on our history and the kinds of things that, or the types of communities that were formative. And like the kink community, the BDSM community, leather community, these things are all integral parts of the history of our story. And like films like this, I think, I don't know, deserve more serious attention. Because this isn't just a film that's made for titillation. It's like there are very interesting ideas and really unique filmmaking techniques in this as well. Yeah, I think that's probably enough on the man Fred.
The other important thing, and this is only like tangentially related to Halstead, but a lot of the films that we view in queer cinema as important, knowing the history of the filming and the filmmaking behind it is what makes it important, because some of them, we're talking like made in East Berlin under communist rule, and it was somehow made with like government funded dollars, or made in Russia where people were literally killed on the streets for some of these things, or in Asian cultures where it was looked down upon and somebody made an outwardly gay film and it genuinely changed certain people's feelings over the next decade. A lot of these have a history that is attached to it that is larger than the film itself. And until you start grasping onto those stories, it's easy to look at it and laugh at some of these things. But I mean, this is a culture. This is a life. This is people's livelihoods. I mean, a lot of these people were only able to make these because of the sacrifices of those before them.
Yeah, and we have an interesting question here that I want to get to, but what you've just said reminded me of another larger point that I wanted to make about sort of representation in general, and like why this stuff is important. And like, yeah, there's the representation for like the real like weirdo freak shit, like getting your entire forearm up a man's ass or whatever. Like, you know, more power to you. That stuff should be represented too. But like, just generally speaking, like, I mean, just to get a little bit personal for a minute, like I didn't even know that to be non-binary was something that was even an option or something that existed until I was like 20 or something, like 21 or whatever. Like I think about that sometimes, like how my life would have been different if I even knew that that was an option earlier than that. You know, it's one thing to like actually reflect on these things and come to a conclusion about these things and move forward once you figured that out. But like, you have to start by knowing it exists, or knowing that it's an option, you know? And like, stuff like this is, I think, probably the most effective way um, for those ideas to be communicated outside of like a school curriculum or something like that, you know? Um, but then also, like, to kind of bring it back to Fred Halstead, I think that like representation of kink and that kind of thing as well is really important. I mean, obviously, you know, keep it age appropriate or whatever, but like, I don't know, there's a lot of shame that comes with all this stuff. And to see somebody embrace that so fully and to see somebody express themselves in a way that is artistic and beautiful, um, I mean, it's empowering and it takes away a lot of unnecessary shame and a lot of unnecessary hiding and allows people the opportunity to see a more authentic version of themselves that they can kind of aspire to and work towards. Um, yeah. Um, yeah, I see we got some discourse about blue is the warmest color. I almost grabbed that one, and then I was like, I don't know how I feel about it, honestly. I don't know if I want it represented in this kind of thing that I'm doing.
Right.
It's one that I watched in high school, and like it was shortly after it came out, and like the meme was like, this is the film with a fucking 15-minute hardcore lesbian sex scene in it. I was like, yeah, I'll watch that. And like it's like 3.5 hours long. Like, you know, you gotta be interested in more than just that to sit through the whole thing. But like, I remember thinking it was really beautiful and really um, powerful. And people have brought it up, but like, apparently the vibes on set for that were not great. And like, I read at the time a lot of prominent lesbian voices being like, this is literally just like a straight male fantasy for like 15 minutes. I think that that's certainly debatable. But I also think that the intentions for it were maybe not as pure as they should have been. I guess what I'm getting at is I'm due for a rewatch before I really speak intelligently on it. um, but I think it can be both. I think it can be a problematic, like male gazy film while also being a powerful representation of lesbian romance and sexuality and heartbreak. I think these things can coexist, and it probably depends more on what the viewer takes out of it for something like this than necessarily what the director had in mind.
If I may direct the next question, something that was being discussed in the chat earlier, would love to hear and have your take preserved on uh, the movement towards, you know, gay people portraying gay roles and straight people portraying gay roles, and how that's been uh, back and forth sort of debate for years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, um, that's a tricky subject. It's something that I think about a lot, and it's something that I kind of have mixed feelings about. You know, um, it's something that comes up not just in this space specifically. It's something that came up a lot um, with Brendan Fraser and The Whale. Like, how appropriate is it to just like stick a man in a fat suit and call that representation. We don't need to get into that, but I have a lot of problems with that film, that being one of them. But in terms of this subject in particular, I think that there was a time, and one could argue there still is a time, where the necessity of straight people playing these roles was there. Like the idea of, I don't know, off the top of my head, all the ones that are coming to mind are cis people playing trans people, but like a film like The Danish Girl or something like that, or Boys Don't Cry, or Dallas Buyers Club. 2 out of 3 of those films I don't care for, but like, let's talk about Boys Don't Cry because I really like that one actually. The idea of forgetting her name, Hilary Swank, playing a trans masculine person, I think has its positives and negatives, where you kind of get that big name and you kind of get people who have never had to think about these things interested. And
Right.
then that creates kind of a gateway for them to think about these things. And but there's also, it reinforces, especially as it relates to gender identity, it relates this idea that to be trans is to put on a costume, you know? Because that is what Hilary Swank did, and that is what Jared Leto did, is they put on a costume and they played the other gender as a character, and then they took it off, and then for all the award shows they were themselves, and it just kind of reinforces this idea that trans people are putting on a costume, so I think that there is, I mean, progress is complicated and representation is complicated, and I think that there are plenty, for whatever reason they're not coming off the top of my head, but I'm sure that there's plenty of examples of straight people playing gay people or cis people playing trans people that you could find a lot to relate to in, and that you could find a lot of powerful that you could get a lot out of it, like as a queer person watching that. It could really strike a chord with you, and it wouldn't necessarily matter that the person playing the role doesn't actually have isn't actually a part of that group, However, I think at a certain point there needs to be a shift towards like, well, why are we getting straight people to play gay actors or to play gay characters when there's so many gay actors who could do it too?
Right.
It's kind of, especially when you're talking about trans and non-binary people, where these are people that already are so marginalized and struggle so much to find work, that like to deny them that so that a cis person can like put on this identity as a costume is, I mean, I think it's definitely problematic in certain ways. And I think that when the only version of a trans person that you see is a cis person playing a trans person, you don't actually have any idea as to what real trans people look like or like what that even, you know what I mean? Like you have an idea in your head as to what it is, and it's inaccurate, like it kind of blows my mind sometimes when I see this discourse and then people will be like, well, they just don't do it because there aren't any. Like what, like name an actor that you could even cast. And it's like, well, that's the problem that you can't name one. It's like,
That's
what
true.
is the problem we're describing here, where your only conception of trans representation in film is a cis person, in parentheses, more qualified person doing it for us, So again, another long-winded answer, and another one that I have more mixed feelings about, but I think that it's pretty clear to me personally that and I don't want to say that I never want a straight person playing a gay person ever again or something like that, But the intuition to let that be the default, I think, is something that probably should have gone away a long time ago. And like I think it's incumbent upon directors and casting directors to, make an effort, I guess, and like not just default to that and be like, oh, it's fine. This is like a more recognizable name or like whatever. I mean, I'm trying not to touch too much on this, but we see these same problems in like racial representation too.
Oh yeah.
And that's more out of my lane to talk about. But I think there's a lot of similar issues there. Yeah, that's probably around. Hold on,
One thing that you can kind of tie into this, we got another comment. There's a double standard with artists. Straight filmmakers can be as fictional as they like with their characters and stories, but films by gay filmmakers need to always be authentic, or they're looked down on or criticized differently.
Yeah, that's an idea that is really interesting, but it's also very true where like when you're in any marginalized group, like suddenly everything you do is important or has a mission attached to it because you are very likely the only version of this thing that a person is ever going to see, especially if it's like a really big thing like this, Right. And so suddenly it's incumbent on you to like make a statement or like be important and I know that I've used words like that like for a lot of these films, and because like it kind of sucks that marginalized people are put in that position, but like they are, and like it is necessary work to like create this serious authentic stuff to kind of get it across. But I think that it also comes with a bit of a price in that it's harder for queer people to make whatever they want because there's so much baggage attached to it, and there is the unavoidable knowledge that you could very well be the one point of contact that someone has with that identity, and that comes with a lot of pressure and a lot of it's a tough spot to be in, and I hope that we're getting away from that where like it doesn't have to be like that. Like we can kind of expand the ways in which queer people can relay our own experiences. You're expected to be a mouthpiece when you never signed up, but that's exactly right. Thank you. That's a very concise way of what I'm getting at here.
And that's where the disparity here is too. It's not like anybody that is a cishet individual is expected to be a mouthpiece for heterosexuality. It's not something that
exactly. Nobody ever thinks that way. It's something that like I think most people don't even realize that they're doing it, but they'll see like a representation of a gay couple and they're like, wow, that's so harmful. Or like, it makes a statement on that entire group when like, I don't think anybody has ever watched fucking Kramer versus Kramer and been like, wow, straight people, am I right? Like we got to do something about this. Like nobody watches that and thinks that. There's always like, oh, those specific people had a story to tell or whatever, yeah.
Not to put a cap on this, but the last thing, we have half an hour till Severin, so I want to make sure that we get into that too. But we would be remiss, I think, to give any less time to Altered Innocence. Could you share your thoughts? Yeah.
Altered Innocence, I think, is doing extremely valuable work. I'm a big fan of what they do. I'm glad that they put out releases so consistently, and that they have. I mean, yeah, you're not wrong there. And that they have a lower price point so that they're more accessible. But I noticed that they only ever get like 1,000 print run, except for Irreversible recently, and that they don't really ever sell out as much as some of the other labels, and that makes me sad because I think that they're probably my favorite of the partner labels. And people rag on Vinegar Syndrome for like putting out trash, and like that's one of those labels that pretty much exclusively deals in like very very serious like art films, you know, like stuff that would not be out of place in the Criterion Collection or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have a couple. I don't own as many of their releases as I'd like to. And in fact, there were quite a few that I looked at that I was like, oh, I'd like to talk about that, but I haven't watched it yet. So here are a few that I have watched. This is Pals. I'm a big fan of this. This is a Spanish film. It's so like Alternate Innocence, their whole mission statement is like LGBT and coming of age films. And this is sort of both. It's more so a coming of age film, but like it's very obvious that this is a queer director. Like there are scenes that are just like very overtly what am I trying to say? Like there will be like very very explicit portrayals of gay sexuality with like full male nudity and like the kind of thing that would get you in trouble with the MPAA real quick, you know? But it's not treated as like a whole thing. It's just like there. It's part of it.
Right.
Like, you know, you'll see, I don't know, what comes to mind is like it's just like that scene in Goodfellas where like the girl is like going down on a guy at the jail and it's just like in the background, it's just there. And it's not like a big thing, you know?
Right.
That's kind of how this film treats queer sexuality. And I really like it. It's a really good film. So there's that one. And then I've talked about this one before, but Saturday Night at the Baths, filmed on location in New York City at the world famous Continental Baths. So this is sort of thing where this is not only just a good film in and of itself, but it is preserving cultural history in some of the scenes in this where they are just, they're like, there's like sections of like cinema verite in this where they are just filming the patrons of this bath as they were. And that is like, this bathhouse, I believe, doesn't exist anymore. And so stuff like that is like preserving cultural history, not just for gay people, but for like New York City and for the country and for humanity. You know what I mean? Like this type of stuff matters. And the film itself is also really good. It's a very interesting kind of look into sexuality and into kind of maybe not polyamory, but kind of the ways in which the different facets of your sexuality can come to fruition and be explored, you know?
Well said. Yeah.
I have a few left that I could just kind of run through real quick so that we don't run into time constraints. And then I guess we can cap it off. But
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that I highlighted this. We're all going to the World's Fair from Utopia because to my knowledge, this is the only film in my collection from a non-binary director. And for all this talk lately of how like you can't swing a dead cat without hitting 10 non-binary people, it's something to be said that like I can't name another film by one that I've seen. Like we're everywhere except, you know, in the spaces that matter. And like I don't know. Like I really just wanted to take a second to reflect on that. That like there is this idea that like it's like a trend or like everybody's doing it, but like really sit down and think how many films or how many directors you can think of, you know? Another one from Utopia, Shit and Champagne. I adore this film. It's so good. It's like, I want to call it a sanitized John Waters because of the aesthetic of it. Like it's not grimy as fuck. It's like, you know, very sleek digital, but the content itself is not particularly sanitized. Like it's pretty out there and it's very funny. I'm a big fan of this one. And I don't know, like drag queens are really, really getting the shit end of the stick lately. And I just feel compelled to like watch these people like as human beings and not like circus monsters or whatever you've constructed them to be. I wanted to pull out this swinging dead cats. Yeah, that's my thing. I wanted to pull out this Doris Wishman set for a second, particularly for "Let Me Die a Woman." Here's another one that I would recommend very cautiously to people because this could be extremely triggering for some people. It is like super outdated and harmful in a lot of respects, but it's also kind of weirdly progressive in other respects. And as a kind of cultural document of attitudes regarding transgender people at the time through the lens of an exploitation film, I don't know. I think it's really fascinating, and I think it is a useful time capsule of sorts. But it also kind of is a great example of something that I tell people a lot when they kind of ask why I care about this sort of sleazier or like not as good, like kind of exploitation films. And something that I frequently bring up is that the establishment in Hollywood boxes these people out by design, especially in the past. And now it's less overt and it's more covert, but like, you know, again, you had to be if you wanted to make a Hollywood, a big budget Hollywood film or like the big film that's being pushed, you can't make a film about like trans people or something, or you can't be a trans person or a woman, or like all these marginalized groups were kind of forced into this sort of underground filmmaking. And so this is where you kind of get a lot of your early representation of this kind of thing. And of course it comes with caveats and it's like not perfect, but it's nothing if not authentic. And it's like, there's not some kind of studio head producer
Right.
like telling you to sanitize this or take stuff out or whatever. Like it's flawed, but it's real, like it's that person's view of it. And
Well, and it's human. If it's
the-
real, it's going to be flawed.
yeah, you said it better. That's true. I watched this the other night and I wanted to pull it out real quick. Daughters of Darkness. For I got to throw in at least one lesbian vampire joint for my own personal representation, I guess. I had seen this like years ago, and I wasn't like, I watched it with friends, and I was like, I'm not sure how much of this is actually like subtext and how much of this is like overt. I don't quite remember. It's pretty overt, especially towards the end. Like this is just like gay vampire shit. It's so beautiful though. Like
Very much a vibe film
not
too.
to say that that's like in contrast with the overt lesbianism. In fact, it adds. But like, man, this is a good for her film if I ever saw one. And man, Blue Underground always knocks it out of the park. But this is such a beautiful film already that like watching this in 4K was just like, just immaculate vibes on this one. Here's another one that might be controversial, but Cruising I found to be extremely, extremely powerful when I watched it. And I was just like, damn, they like this goes places that I think most like A-list directors like wouldn't dare. Like there's scenes in this where I was like, I kind of can't believe they got away with it. And I think that this is one that gets accused of maybe perpetuating the idea of the homosexual as like a violent threat. But I think that this is actually more so a comment on internalized homophobia and repression than it is on like the gay menace or something like that.
Right.
And it also just has some very authentic, very uncomfortable portrayals of gay men and leather culture and BDSM and I say uncomfortable in that some of it is uncomfortable in its content, but it's also uncomfortable for like the average person to be presented with this. Like I won't name names, but I've seen people react to this and they're like, what the fuck was that? Why did you recommend this to me? And I'm like, I mean, maybe you should reflect on why that made you so uncomfortable. I don't know.
I'm glad this got brought up because this is the last one that I wanted to throw out there if it didn't. But one thing I wanted to ensure that people actually know about Cruising is that there are shocking scenes in Cruising that are over the top in the way that you watch it nowadays, and you're like, well, that's like, why is this in a movie? That's just ridiculous. but there are like William Friedkin spent time with actual cops to find out how they did things, and the crazy stuff that you see in this film are documented as having actually occurred in New York City,
Yep.
which is terrifying, shocking, and just ridiculous. And when you watch it with that sort of knowledge, especially if it's your first time in 2023, it is a completely different film. It is something that is so powerful and so moving that it's impossible to watch and not feel empathy. I would hope.
Yeah. It's one that I'm due for a rewatch on for sure, because I remember just being so taken with it, and there's so much going on with it, especially by the end of it. I had like a completely different read on it by the end than I did halfway through it. Yeah, I think it's just really bold, and I think it's really brave in like the lengths that it goes to. And
Right.
yeah, it's not a film that is particularly kind to police officers. And well, that makes it sound like it's being unfair. I think it's just accurate, like you said.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Okay, here's one that's actually that
Let's make this the last one.
Oh no. Okay, I'll go really fast.
Well, we can have time after the Severin talk too. Actually, we can come back to this.
All right, I can do it. I can do it quick as fuck. This is one that should have come to mind immediately when you said ones that were important to me personally, and that's Hellraiser. I have a whole review on this on my channel, so I'm gonna use this opportunity to shamelessly plug that in lieu of me kind of stumbling around it right now. But this is like a certified fucking queer classic right here.
Yeah.
Marlene Dietrich is another one that is super, super important to me. One that connected with me personally very deeply. Just the kind of very early bisexual icon in a way that was not even like that subtle. Like, she kisses girls in these movies, and like she was very open about that in her personal life, and like she is the GOAT. So big fan of that. And then the last thing I wanted to look at was this Severin title, and that can be our transition, as it were. Andy Milligan, another example of like a weirdo fucking gay dude who would never have been allowed in like the traditional studio system, and so he had to make these like little freak movies with his little freak friends doing all sorts of weirdo shit. And like it, you know, you can feel how you want to feel about this, like watching this stuff. If you hate it, I get it, but like, again, it's nothing if not authentic, if not deeply human and personal and sincere, you know. I'm like probably halfway through this set, and it's not something that I can't quite it's not something that I'm like binging necessarily, but it's something that I keep returning to as like, sometimes this is the vibe. And just really nasty, mean-spirited, actually fairly intelligent Z grade kind of films. That's it. That's everything in my stacks. We did it.
That is wonderful. I have enjoyed this greatly. If you were looking for things to start with, I think that Criterion and Altered Innocence have the obvious answers at the moment. They also have the highest quality answers. If you want to feel the most authentic, you just look a little bit below the surface. And either way, if you have never dove into this subject, it is an important one. It's a timely one, and it's one that can change somebody's entire outlook.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Severin.
I feel like I was
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
When we talked about having this conversation, you were like, I want to do like, you know, something similar to what KB did for the Juneteenth one. I was like, oh my God, that's a high bar, because he did such a good job, and that was such a good conversation. And I feel as though I have been talking in circles and maybe stumbling a bit. It's a little bit harder to talk about things this personal, like off the cuff or whatever, but like,
right.
You know, hopefully we could get something out of it. And I appreciate
you did fantastic
the space. Well, thank you. Okay, Severin, Sale time.
What a lovely change from that conversation to this. This is going to be very different. Moving on to the Sale. So first thing, is a lot about this sale is getting people to complain. I mean, that's the classic thing right now. The biggest thing everybody wants to talk about is the prices. So I'm going to scroll down to that portion first. We have 8 brand new pre-order titles, 4 of the bundles, 50% off most of the Severin and Intervision titles, and then the new merch, of course. We will talk about the 50% off in just a second, but the new stuff, this is where we are seeing the most sort of complaints. Brand new titles. We have the Nightmare slipcover booklet, 3-disc 4K and Blu-ray set. This is $55. The Blu-ray is region free. This has 1 4K disc and 2 Blu-rays. Then there is Bad Biology, which is $49, which has 1 4K disc and 1 Blu-ray, but it's housed in a hardcover book. The Psychic from Fulci, this one is $55, and you get 1 4K disc, 2 Blu-rays, and a CD. Of course, they are actually mentioning the difference here. Nightmare has slipcover, Psychic has slipcase. The Last Horror Film has slipcase. The Last Horror Film is $49, and this one is the main one that is going to be limited to the sale, it sounds like. We got 1 4K disc, 1 Blu-ray, and they say, please note, this release is strictly limited per our agreement with Troma. If you want to purchase this, you should do it during the sale. So it will likely not be available after this sale. The next one is Private Crimes. That's a 2-disc Blu-ray. That's $28. Journey to the Center of the Earth is the next Severin Kids title. That one is $20. The Inconfessable Orgies of Emmanuel and then the Sexual Story of O, those are each $25. Those are both Jess Franco titles. Yeah, so these are high prices. Like I'm not gonna zoom past that and stand up for it and say these are cheap or easily accessible or anything like that. The hard part is I know how much work goes into these, and from what it looks like, the prices are probably fairly on point. Like I don't think Severin is making a ton of money off of one of these releases being $55, and they could have sold it for 40, and you guys are just schlubs that are going to make them rich or something. Obviously they have to, it's a business, they have to make something on it, but I don't see that these should be half what this price is or anything like that. This is tough. Any thoughts on the pricing from you?
I don't think it's unfair. I just think it is a lot to ask of people.
It is.
Especially with how things are right now. I just know that me personally, I'm just like in a spot where I've spent so much money on this for so long that like I think I finally reached the point where I'm a little bit over it and I can kind of let things go. And a $55 price tag on something I've never seen before kind of fits into that category of things that I feel like I can let go for now, Although that one in particular, Nightmare, it did look like really cool. Like I remember when you posted the announcement, I like sent it to Avery and I was like, this looks fucking wild. I want to watch this, This kind of stuff right here where it's like the Last Horror Film and it says strictly limited. If you're going to purchase it, you should do it now. I mean, if that's true, that's true. But I think I've just started to feel a little bit like the psychology of this is being exploited a little bit. And I kind of understand that that's the name of the game. But I think I've fallen for it so many times where like I had to have something. And then I like spent beyond my means. And then, when enough time passes, it's kind of like nothing really goes away. And like I can kind of let a particular edition or a particular packaging pass me by as long as I get like the content on the disc itself at some point, More rambling. I haven't slept a lot this week and I'm starting to feel it, but like hopefully that made sense somewhere.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The Last Horror Film, this is the only one that it says is limited right now, and they're saying if you want it, you better get it now. It is possible that the only reason they're saying that is because it's coming with a Maniac 2 cover on it. So
yeah,
it's
now
one of the
that's it right there. Now
when I read that, excuse me, the way I read it is like this film itself, everything about it. We can only sell it this weekend, so fucking get it now. But if what they really mean is, oh, we could only license the cover art for this weekend, and then a bunch of people buy it in a panic, and then next time it's like, oh, here it is again with a different cover art that we can sell. Like, it just, that feels like you're taking advantage of people a little bit.
Right.
But I also get why they're doing it. Like, I'm not actually that mad at it. Like, I get that that's where we're at in terms of making back the investment. And like, I don't know, I don't really see this as necessarily like a cynical, like, we just want to make money. I do think that there is a sort of larger project of film access and preservation that we're kind of working towards here that I do support as like a kind of higher calling, you know, than
Right.
not just like collecting in and of itself, you know. But it starts to feel a little bit cynical, like they're playing on the collector's mindset in and of itself sometimes, I think.
One thing I do want to point out, and Sibner, I'm not like trying to say that you're wrong, and I'm highlighting you on purpose. But like, this is the kind of comment that we see a lot right now. He says, "Look at A Blade in the Dark. Had that come out from Severin, it would be like $70." And I don't think that is remotely true. I think that the release from Vinegar Syndrome is good, but some of these other ones are just as big or bigger, and they're cheaper than $70. And I know you're exaggerating on purpose, but the thing is, Severin is not the same size as Vinegar Syndrome, and I think a lot of people keep equating those two. Vinegar Syndrome sells a massive amount more than Severin, and a massive amount more than a lot of these other labels. They are probably somewhere between number 3 and 5 in the boutique world, easily, especially with their limited releases.
Oh, now I want to hear the rest of those blanks. I'm guessing Criterion is number 1.
I would assume so, yes.
And then maybe Shout Factory after that?
I would imagine, if you count those stuff as boutique, and that's where it was a little bit of a gray area for me. I don't know if you would count that. I would have to guess that Arrow would probably still be very high up there.
Yeah, they got some big gets for sure.
So somewhere, depending on the month, Vinegar Syndrome is solidly probably between 3 and 5. I see this situation as Vinegar Syndrome is saving money on production. Severin is not. It's a lot. I get it, and it feels disingenuous. I do wish we could have transparency. That is the one thing that I think is missing from a lot of these things, is if we could just be clear about what we're selling, when we're selling, how many of them there are, and all of that stuff, it would be great.
I did see in my podcast feed that they dropped an almost 4-hour discussion on all this stuff. So maybe there's some stuff in there that would be enlightening, I imagine.
They did, yeah. 3-hour podcast went up today, so I will shout that out. And then on top of that, Severin started a new YouTube channel, so everybody should go subscribe to that. Rip all of their views.
Yeah. Is Kino boutique? Yeah, for sure. I think so.
My definition of boutique is if the person selling the films is not the studio that made the film, it's a boutique.
Yeah, I think that's a fair definition. Somebody, Sibner, he brought up the Four Flies release. That was the one that felt especially cynical to me, where I was like, there's no way this is actually a like sale exclusive. But then like they kind of haven't put it out again, and I'm like, well, maybe it really was. I don't know what's going on there.
If you email them, they'll still sell it to you.
Oh, well, yeah, but I don't know. That's like, you really got to be in the know to like even try to do that, or know that you can do that. Like, I don't know. It's just it's all weird.
So the other stuff that we got coming, they are selling bundles. We've got a Joe Spinell plush doll. There are 700 of those divided up between 2 different bundles. There are Severin Films Hall of Fame enamel pins for Carolyn Monroe, Joe Spinell, Frank Henenlotter. The Psychic is getting a music box. This looks really neat, although the way they described it today, it's like it's encased in cardboard. What? Man, that makes it sound super cheap.
The music box, right? I would hope that would be like wooden or something. I don't know.
Yeah, the way they described it on Facebook seemed much cheaper.
Oh.
We got the novelization of Nightmare. They've got a Severin 2000 t-shirt, which is actually like nostalgic in all the right ways. I like it. They've got the vinyl soundtrack from TerrorVision for Things that they're going to be selling. They got 4 brand new stickers, which I got to admit they look pretty good. And then a glow-in-the-dark Severin logo enamel pin. The crazy thing is if you get the everything bundle, it is $350. That is a lot of money.
That's coming up on like the halfway subscription price.
Well, we'll find out in a few days on that one.
Yeah, I guess so.
The smaller bundles are less, obviously, like the Damaged Brain bundle is $75. You got the release of Nightmare, you've got the t-shirt with that, and you've got the novelization. Honestly, that's not a terrible price for those 3 things together. The Joe Spinell bundle is $90 or $89, and it's got the Last Horror Film 4K with the plush doll, and then it's also got the 2 pins with it. And then the Just the Disc bundle is $265. It's got all of the 8 releases, but none of the swag. And honestly, if you look at the Just the Disc compared to the individual pricing on the discs, it is much, much cheaper. Like you're saving a significant portion. If you want even 6 of the titles, it is worth it to get that Just the Discs. Which I got to shout out multiple comments on my Instagram that said, in the Just the Disc bundle, do you get a Brian Sauer plush doll?
Yo. How cool would that be, huh?
Pretty.
I wonder if that was intentional. If so, shout out to him. What a cool thing. I would just like to quickly say that plush dolls are the most underutilized merch item in this space, and we need more.
Amen.
If I could get the Vinegar Girl as a plush, yo. Or a Tammy and the T-Rex plush. Come on. So
That
many
would be
good
awesome.
options here.
Yeah. This is where we're at, and it's about that time. So let's bring up the site. We literally only have 2 minutes left. Severin recommendations. Yes, Stan, that is Fulci's the psychic. Any Severin recommendations that you know of offhand, other than the one that you showed tonight from Milligan?
Yeah, Andy Milligan for sure. The Nunsploitation box, The Nasty Habits, that one's really cool. I haven't watched the whole thing. I've watched one of the films on it, and I really enjoyed it. But I also just really like the idea of it. All or Nothing, the fucking Mike Leigh film that they randomly got for no reason. It was so weird, but it's like one of my favorite films of all time. And like, it's a little unfortunate that Severin got it because I feel like it just flew under the radar and like nobody really talked about it.
We're open.
But it's amazing. Yep, there we go.
And look at that. You can get some of this stuff by itself, like the Psychic Music Box is $15 by itself.
Well, that's not going to be like a wooden box or anything at that price point, I don't think.
No.
The only music box I've ever purchased was the one that Chelsea Wolfe did for her Pain is Beauty merch run, and it plays the intro to House of Metal, and it's like really nice. So that's what I was picturing.
So I got to admit, some of this, it looks great. Like the Spinell plush, this is really cool.
Yeah, I wonder how it'll look in person. Because that looks
Yeah.
extraordinarily detailed in the face, you know?
It does. It's kind of lame that it's a artistic drawing instead of a picture of it. But I'm glad that it's open. I will shout out The Boys Next Door as one of my biggest recommendations from Severin.
It's a good one. Nasty film.
It really is. Are they still not showing the entire slipcase for this? Oh, well, that's too bad. Yeah. It's less climactic when we know all of the titles going into it, but I think this is a really cool time to get some of their catalog titles. Gosh.
Don't Go in the House is one that I like a lot.
Blood for Dracula, obviously a big deal. It's a great
Mhm.
film.
I'm sure there's more. Hold on. Day of the Animals is pretty good.
Day of the Animals is a lot of
It's a
fun.
fun one. I'm sure there's more. The Beast Must Die. I'm a fan of that one. I think more films should have like overt intermissions where they have you guess the ending with like a little time clock and like a jingle. I think it's called like the werewolf moment or something really stupid, but I love that.
Great new zombie Fulci sticker.
Yeah.
The
I'm trying not to be a hater. I'm not
in
a huge
Trumpy
fan
We
of
Trust
the
sticker.
art style on
Really?
their stickers. Yeah, it just doesn't work for me personally, but I do like that it exists. You know, I wish more places would just do random stickers.
I do too.
It's probably for the best that I don't just spend a bunch of money on it, you know.
I don't know if somebody just looked at it as guts, but I love that the George Eastman sticker actually uses his guts to spell out chow.
Lovely. Severin Flakes.
I didn't see that they were called Severed Flakes. That's funny. Oh man. Let's
The House of Psychotic Women. I haven't had a chance to get it or even look at it, but I think the idea is so cool that like I feel confident recommending it.
Yep,
Like
there's
I
that
don't
art
know.
style you
That
love.
one, the Beast in Heat, like I can't imagine putting that on anything. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, I
If
get
you
that.
think it's cool, I'm happy for you.
I'm gonna go in through some of these catalog titles, and we'll see what we got on sale here.
Oh, Birdemic. There's a classic, great film.
Legacy of Blood is down to 15. Crypt of the Vampires 15. I Miss You Hugs and Kisses is 20. Devil's Game 17. I mean, these are obviously much cheaper than they would have been a week ago, but it's wild to me that we're not in the same sort of situation that we were just a handful of years ago when Severin used to sell titles for like $10 during the sale.
Mm-hmm. Drowning by Numbers I haven't seen yet, but it from all accounts it's like amazing, and I definitely am interested in grabbing it at some point.
Sibner, I have not watched I Miss You Hugs and Kisses in full yet. What I've seen from it is pretty good, but also remember, I believe that's a double feature, and let me pull that one up there. It should be right around here. There it is.
Will, I'm going to be the devil on your shoulder and tell you that you fucked up and you need that plushie.
Yeah, you're gonna regret it.
I'm only saying that because like 10 seconds ago he was like, I need that immediately, and then he bailed on it, which is probably responsible.
So I Miss You Hugs and Kisses comes with recommendation for Mercy, and I believe I saw that one a while ago. That one was pretty good. Nice solid release from Severin on there.
Also, real quick, when we wrapped up our discussion, I got a bunch of really nice comments, and I wanted to say thank you to everybody who watched and took the time to write that, because I'm feeling a little out of practice, and I was like, I don't know about that one, but y'all had some nice things to say, so I appreciate that.
Good. Let's see. The Plague of Zombie trilogy is down to 20. That's one I've had my eyes on.
All About Evil is one that I've been meaning to check out.
Natasha Lyonne again, and that one's made by Peaches Christ. Very timely with our discussion.
Indeed. The Eurocrypt of Christopher Lee. That's a cool thing. I'm a big Christopher Lee fan, and I'm a fan of like this kind of Out of the Blue. How did I forget about that one? Yeah, go get that.
It's an obvious important
one. I
one.
have watched it, and I did love it. Yeah. Hey, stop stabbing me! I love that title so much. Like, yeah,
and it's only $12.50.
Black Candles is like the sickest cover art. I haven't seen it yet though.
I don't like it as much as a lot of other people.
They still have the slipcover for "Don't Go in the House," and I love the artwork on it a lot. I'll need
It's
to get
really
it at some
good.
point. Yeah. How much is Nasty Habits going for? $70.
$70, and that's the other thing. A lot of people
That's not. Yeah.
not happy about the box sets not being on sale at all.
Yeah, like they did that box set sale kind of recently, and I wish I went harder on it because that's when I got the Andy Milligan set, and I was like,
Mm.
yeah, that's a good price. Look at that. But I kind of wish I got that one too, or maybe the Eurocrypt one. I don't know. All or Nothing. There's that one. That's probably my highest recommendation. It's really just not talked about like it should be, and it's like just such an intense. I mean, if you like Mike Lee, like you'll love it, and like if you don't know Mike Lee, I think this is a good a place to start as any. And just the way he writes human beings is so, I don't know, they feel like real people. They feel like complicated, beautiful, messy, complex, real people, you know?
Yeah.
I see that all the Haunts BR set. That's like one of the coolest things I own. So I recommend that. Oh,
But
shit. An Angel for Satan is amazing. I
really
love
good.
that film so much.
Barbara Steele is great in it.
Mm-hmm.
If you are maybe not into folk horror so much, or you just want to dabble in 170s too much, this documentary is incredible, and it's a good gateway into too many things. Eyes of Fire is also amazing, and if you just want the two best things in the box set, this is the cheapest way to get there.
Nice. I talked about it in the video I did talking about it or whatever. Man, my senses are really falling apart. An Angel for Satan. It feels like almost like a Bergman-esque sort of thing. It feels very artsy. It doesn't feel very sleazy. Like it's like in beautiful high contrast black and white. I love it. I love that movie a lot.
Good call there.
I have not seen Midnight. And do you need the Caligula coin? Sure, why not? It's like what, $5? Like, yeah, I get it. Skin Deep is
Siege.
fucking wild. It's a
Skin Deep is good.
movie that I like a lot.
Siege is one of my highest from Severin as well. This is an incredible movie and very relevant for tonight's discussion.
Oh, I should check that out. I don't think I'd heard of it, actually.
It is
Grizzly I did not care for, but
Grizzlies.
It is what it is. I
Grizzlies
think
are
you'll know if you'll like it.
Santa Sangre 4K or Blu-ray. The 4K looks incredible. That's a very important, like, required film almost.
Yeah, it's kind of a big get for them too, honestly. I need to get around to that one at some point.
Two of my favorites, Perdita Durango and Day of the Beast. Highly recommend Perdita Durango especially. And the 4Ks of both of those look astonishing. They were the first 4Ks from Severin. Just really solid releases.
Wait, what are the... I didn't see the 4Ks. Are they on there too?
I think
you're
this is
looking at
only
Blu-ray, right?
Blu-rays, yeah.
Yeah. The Black Cat. There's so many films called The Black Cat.
There's so many. Family Portraits. If you read it and it sounds like you'd be interested in it, you probably would be. That one's hard to recommend to a lot of people, though.
Lots of Fulci stuff.
Fulci and Franco are high on the list at Severin.
Satan's Slave is really interesting. I don't know that I'd say it's good, but it is fascinating. If like the idea of like a Muslim propaganda zombie film from Indonesia sounds at all intriguing to you, I'd say it's worth a look.
And how can it not?
Yeah. It's like if you made like a Christian propaganda film in America, you know what I mean? Like that kind of really cynical, like preachy kind of thing. Like you made a horror movie out of it, but it's like in the context of Indonesia. It's really fascinating, honestly. And it's kind of gross. I was into it. I have Fulci for Fake and I've not watched it. So sorry, dude McMahon. I cannot assist on that one. I found it in a store, like used, and I was like, "That's fun.
Weird.
I'll get that." Yeah.
This is gonna be rare that most people would recommend this. Have you seen Saint Bernard yet?
No, but it looks like a good time to me.
I'm a
Saint
fan of
Bernard.
dog movies.
Well, not of this one. It's it's about a guy that literally carries around a Saint Bernard's head.
Oh, that's not fun.
But it's like
I was hoping for a big boofy boy running around chomping. You know, that was the vibe I was looking for.
it's like a familial trauma movie though, and it's really well
Okay.
made. And some of the sets are some of the most outlandish sets you will ever see because Gabe Bartolos is the director, and he's known for the special effects stuff.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you told me that in advance because I think if I popped that in hoping for a
Oh,
fun
no.
romp, I would have had a bad time. So that's
Yeah.
good.
When you look at the cover outright, you can like that's literally his spine.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of these in like the kind of deep cuts that like look really good to me. I just haven't had the opportunity to watch all of this stuff. You know.
Yeah.
Changeling is really good. I mean, not exactly an original thought there, but it's really good.
I mean, I personally think the Changeling is the best version of that thought, at least.
The best version of what?
Like the classic haunted house story.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I do really like it.
Well, with the version that they're going for, I would say.
In that category in your mind, would The Haunting be in that? Because that, to me, when you think about a haunted house film, like that is like the one for me.
It's close. I don't think they're exactly the same.
Yo, that's one I should have brought up earlier. I can't believe I didn't pull that one. I do have it. That's like a lesbian classic, and like subtext to the point of like, come on, like.
Yeah. Chris says, "What do y'all think of Baskin? That was a UK only sale on the Severin site for a long time, but they have it up for world sale. So I'm curious. Have you seen Baskin yet?"
Nope.
Baskin is pretty wild. It's a fun movie. It's very interesting. I like it a lot. It was released in the US originally by Shout Factory. That's why it had to be a UK only. Which I think that's the only title Severin's done that for. So their 4Ks are actually fairly priced. Like Perdita Durango with the slipcover on 4K for $20.
Yeah, that's pretty good, huh? Both
Santa
of those.
Sangre, the giant set, for $30 on 4K. Out of the blue, like my maybe top 3 favorite releases from last year, 4K for $30 with the slip. Like that is an incredible deal.
Just dropped $250 on the sale. Damn, good for you. That was Griff's comment. Honestly, I don't think I'm gonna get anything. I just am not really in a spot to be dropping because like I have a problem where I don't like to spend under the free shipping threshold, which I think is $100, and I'm
It's
just like
100, yeah.
not really feeling like dropping a cool 100 right now. I might change my mind by the time it's over. I guess we'll see.
Well, that's the thing. You've got days for this. The only things that you might worry about selling out are the 2 main bundles, and even then, there's 350 of each. And they're expensive, so they're not gonna sell immediately. And that's, by the way, that's only the ones with the plush in it. The other ones, gosh, I don't think all of the bundles had limits on them. So this one is limited to 350. This one is not limited at all. The Spinel bundle is limited to 350. Okay, so the Damaged Brain bundle is limited to 500. That's still a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are you thinking about grabbing?
I don't know. I mean, I did sell a couple big things today, so I've got a little bit that I could potentially do, but I got to be honest, I really want plushes. I love those things.
So you getting that 350 bundle, huh?
God, no. It would be the 89.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's reasonable, I think.
And I collect the Severin pins eventually too, so it almost makes it worth it.
Yeah.
Hmm. But like we said, don't forget, spend wisely. Only spend what you can. If you were jonesing for the Criterion sale that goes live in literally like, God, is it live on the East Coast or is it live Central? I don't remember. It might be live already. Let me see.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of people saying they're going to skip this one. Do you think this is going to do well for them? I haven't felt the hype, but maybe it's because I have been distracted and not constantly thinking about Blu-rays as I am wont to do. And I don't have my finger on the pulse, as it were.
I don't think it's going to do very well for them, and I think it's because it's a oversaturated weekend. I will just simply say it like that. There is too much being announced this weekend that it is nigh impossible for any of us that are in this hobby to get not even everything that we want, but also just even a portion of what we want at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I think I had kind of mentally been like, I'm holding off for the announcements, the partner label announcements coming up. And I don't know, like, especially right after they dropped that Emmanuel set, the prospect of dropping $350 on a kind of grab bag of stuff is like, it's kind of a big ask of people, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope it does well for them, you know?
Me too. And I hope that, I mean, in that case, that would mean everybody else is doing very, very well. I know I'm not, but I hope everybody else is.
Yeah.
KB says Criterion is live online. So does Sibiner. So, hey, you got things that you can jockey against each other already.
Also, I gave y'all a fat stack of recommendations a second ago if you need that. Well, I'm glad for you, Will. I'm glad you're excited.
Well, and that's the thing. I would love to own all 8 of these releases. I would also love to own $350.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't like want to have a $350. I have to have $350 or I'll get kicked out of my house. You know, like, oh.
Sibiner pre-orders on Barnes & Noble are never half off, as far as I remember.
No, I don't believe so.
When it comes up to that being released, then it's on sale immediately.
Yeah.
That Horror Dude, yes, you can get all of these after this weekend. None of them are strictly limited except for the last Horror.
What is that even like? Maybe I shouldn't even ask because I wasn't interested, and you might convince me. But is that something that I should be like? Oh shit, maybe I should get that. I've never heard of it. You know.
Here's the thing. Right? So, Furtado from Severin told me that it looks incredible, and historically, the Blu-ray was bungled. Or no, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of another one where the Blu-ray was terrible. But basically, Furtado is saying that everything that is in this bundle, he is shocked at how good they were able to restore all of these. Which, that's not always the case.
I mean, is the film something that I should be like on my radar or something?
So I've not watched the whole thing. I've seen scenes. Essentially, from what I've read, the reason I've only seen a couple scenes is the film is not amazing. It's got a couple like really well done scenes, but outside of that, it leaves a lot to be desired. I am really eager to see Psychic in 4K eventually. I don't think I will be able to get that tonight, but that is a really great Fulci title, and for anybody that's never seen it, highly recommend it.
Yeah, I gotta check that out. Okay, apparently the banner is up on Barnes & Noble, but the prices aren't live yet. So they're working on it, I guess.
And that's usually how it is with Barnes & Noble. It's usually a good hour or so until it's all perfect.
almost just straight up rubbed my eyes and remembered I was wearing makeup. Probably shouldn't do that. Sorry for the low energy. I really have not been sleeping this week. That's okay. We're doing the thing. We're elated.
You have done very well tonight, and I appreciate it.
Thanks. I appreciate you offering the invitation and giving me the time and the space for this. Yeah, it's been hard for me to make my own content lately, but doing like guest appearances like this are good ways for me to kind of keep up with it in some capacity, you know.
Well, like I said, for this month, I had Juneteenth and Pride Month dates set aside for you and KB, and
Nice.
that was before I even asked either of you. I'm just glad you
Right
both
on.
said yes. For anybody that's interested in t-shirts, I don't love the company so much anymore, but Rucking Fountain is selling a hard-boiled t-shirt right now that just
I
went
think I
live
saw that.
like 20 minutes ago.
Their designs are hard, but like I think they print on Gildan Heavy Cotton and charge like $45 plus import shipping. I'm just like, I can't with that.
Okay, so it's a hard-boiled and the killer. They're doing some of each.
Too many. Went with 3 titles. Nice.
Well, and that's the thing. The sales, like Criterion is about to be live. Severin is live. In the morning, you're getting a MakeFlix sale. Full Moon is live right now. There's a 101 film sale that is live right now. There is a Synapse sale that is live at oldies.com.
Yeah, I saw that too.
The Vinegar Syndrome partner label month is over, and we go into subscriber week again in just a day
that's
and
right.
a half.
That's right. It wasn't just the partner titles because they're having their biggest partner month ever. But on top of that, they're doing more. Like, they're doing more like special pricing every day, right? It's probably not going to be $10, but it might be like, I don't know.
Well, the way they
$13.
made it sound is it's compounding. So the more you buy, the more you save. But that could be a way for them to say, if you buy 3 of these, then you'll get them all for $10 each. And then they can get away with doing $10 sales again, even though they said they wouldn't. Just like they kind of heavily implied that you wouldn't be able to do a half-year subscription, and they're about to do that.
Well, at least I'm good on the proper releases for the rest of the year. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. Am I going to be live on Saturday for the VS sale? I have not decided yet. Should I be? It's a lot, and I mean, even just posting the announcements on Saturday, it is. I'm already like intimidated by how long I'm going to have to spend doing that.
Oh man, I don't envy you in that task. I will reap the benefits of it, but I don't envy the work you have to do.
Well, and that's the thing. It's not just 17 titles. It's 17 partner titles, plus 4 releases from Vinegar Syndrome, plus merch. So you're talking 20. I'm going to have to post at least probably 23 to 24 times just for Vinegar Syndrome.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, Arrow announcements tomorrow morning. Imprint just announced titles while we were live tonight, and they're 4 hard boxes. Yeah. There's so much happening right now. Shout Factory will probably be announced on Monday.
Yeah. Yeah. If you do decide to go live on Saturday, I would offer to be there because that's like our thing now. But I have a date on Saturday. I'm excited about it. So I don't know.
Well, keep in mind, it is at noon. It's not at night.
Yeah. It's a kind of an all-day thing, but
good.
Good.
And since next Thursday is the first Thursday of the month, this guy will be live to discuss with me.
Oh, hell yeah. I'll be looking forward to that.
Human Boy Worldwide also just put up new pre-orders on tees for The Swimmer, Secrets and Lies, and Jafar Panahi's The Mirror. Highly recommend giving those a look. I believe
for The Swimmer, that's sick.
I believe Rough Cut is putting up teas in the morning as well.
Damn.
Oh, thanks, Wave. I might do it. I finished one editing gig this week, and I just got a second one tonight, so I got to start working on that too.
You know, I'm sitting here thinking I probably shouldn't be doing this speculation just live, but like, if you did go live on that stream for that sale, like, I mean, I'm gonna have to carve out some time to go through it anyway. I might as well do it on camera.
Just on camera shopping.
Yeah, you know. Oh boy, too much, too many things going on all the time.
And that's just this weekend. Like, there's so much. I genuinely, if I had like $2,000, I could easily just buy movies with.
Yeah,
it
it's
this
just
weekend.
done. It's gone. You know. Now we're getting people. Oh, the site crashed. Good for them.
Not for me. I'm still loading just fine.
I don't know.
Ronnie says I would load if YouTube were live Saturday.
Things to consider.
That's true. That's true.
Try checking out. So it only crashes if you try to buy something? That's super unfortunate.
That's like the worst kind. Were you a part of things when they're I think it was a summer. Yeah, it was a summer sale when it crashed so bad a couple of years ago, and you had to email them your orders.
No, but that sucks.
It was hell. It was absolute hell.
That's a rough one. That's like when I worked at the grocery store and our systems went down and we had to like manually like, I don't even know how to describe what we had to do with people's credit cards to like use like this antiquated machine. Like, this is what it feels like. That's what it reminded me of.
The press-on carbon paper scanner.
Yes, yes, that one. I was like, what the hell is this? I can't believe they made us do that.
Am I old? I remember having to use that pretty much daily.
Oh, really? No, none of that. I was like, what the hell is that? Us oldies. I'm enjoying sales as a spectator sport. That's how I'm feeling. It feels weird, but it also feels liberating. I don't even have the site pulled up myself. I would usually be building a cart right now, like covertly, but
right.
I'm just like chilling, you know? That's funny. I should probably reference what I'm talking about. Yeah, that one.
Furtado said he pitched Severin printing a shirt after that sale with a Severin logo lady and 502 bad gateway instead of Severin. That's amazing. Oh, Indicator. That's right. It's not. They're not having a sale, but it's like promo prices. It's like 10 or 20% off.
Yeah, I think they're doing like a warehouse clear out or something of some stuff that they're not reprinting or whatever.
Yeah, and they got some out of print returns.
Yeah, that's right. I was vaguely remembering the email I read in bed this morning at 7 a.m.
The imprint stuff comes so early. Well, it got very quiet.
We hit the 3-hour mark.
We did.
Shipping's $30. That's brutal.
That's the Australian shipping is pretty much always $30 unless there's a free shipping threshold, and I think their free shipping is like $200.
Yeah, I don't fault them for that. Like, shipping costs what it costs. It's just like, damn, that's a rough one, you know.
Well, and it's crazy from a couple countries coming into the U.S., but for us shipping out of the U.S. right now is really bad, going everywhere pretty much. I just sent Blu-rays to the UK, Estonia, and somewhere else. And God, I didn't go with this. This is going to sound facetious, But I took one package to FedEx to get quoted to send stuff to Estonia, and they quoted me $600, literally.
For like, what's the weight on that?
It was like 7.5 pounds.
Oh my god. I work in transportation logistics, so like I have an idea as to these sorts of things. And that is, I'm trying to imagine quoting $600 on a 7-pound shipment.
It was like 592 and some change. John says, Ryan, did you see the imprint announcements? Another release of Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia. Yes, and somehow while we were doing all this tonight, I posted all the imprint announcements while we were live.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's why you wanted me to talk the whole time.
I mean, it helped. No, the funny thing is, there was one of them. I was full blown doing it while I was talking.
That makes sense. Steven over at Chasing Labels had the theory that you're doing like a prestige sort of thing. And I think that's the only way that it makes sense.
Yeah, I strangled
I
myself.
was like, yeah, that makes sense. I'll buy it. Those designs are mid. Damn. Which shirts?
The Rucking Fountain ones here. We're not paying attention to Severin much at the moment.
A bowl of cereal sounds nice. I'm a fan.
So this is their design for the killer.
I don't know. I think that's sick. I'm a sucker for a sleeve print. A 4-sided long sleeve, I'm like, yeah, that shit's hard.
Yeah. And then for
Oh, it's not 4-sided. That's okay.
boiled, this is their print.
Come on. You're gonna call that mid?
That one's pretty rad.
Come on, that's sick. I love when you both talk while I shop the sales. It keeps me calm. I've been told that my voice is calming, so I'm glad that that can help
It is.
with things. Well, thank you. It's probably because I'm so anxious all the time. I need to like become a calming presence. That one I'm not as well. I just don't like white shirts, to be honest with you. But I'm not as fan.
I got tattled on. My friend said we had a small text conversation while he was live too. He's always been this way.
Yeah. Are you the type of person that can watch a film and be doing something else at the same time?
I do that while I work. That's a lot of these that I get to watch. It's because I'm able to put it on while I do my job.
I think I have the opposite, whatever form of neurodivergence that both of us seem to have. Or like if I put on a film, I can't look away for 10 seconds, and I'll have to rewind it. Like that is what I'm focused on, you know.
Right.
Anything else, and I'm not. It won't stay in my brain or whatever. Like I'll miss stuff, you know. Just not how I've never been a person that can just throw something on in the background if it's like not a YouTube video or something, or like a podcast where it's like if it's a film, like if it's a visual / auditory medium like that, it requires my full attention, you know?
Yeah, and I'm not getting 100% out of it for sure when I'm doing that. It's just...
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I believe that you get enough out of it to where it was worth it. I just feel like when I do it, I might as well have not watched it, and yet I spend all that time doing it anyway, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. It's that ADHD side, and that's the thing is, you know, there's a whole autism spectrum. I completely think there's a full-blown ADHD spectrum too, where there's certain things that affect others, obviously other ways than the other, but I've got the one where I can't stop working, and usually that means doing 3 things at once.
Sam says every time they get a white shirt, it stains. That's the one problem of it, but also like I have 3 of them as opposed to like 600 black shirts. So it's like, what am I going to do? A load of laundry for like 3 shirts? Like that's stupid. I'm not doing that. Like I just won't get them. I think I'm going to like tie dye them or something so I could just not worry about it. I don't know. We'll see.
That's a way to break generational cycles. We don't need to divide those colors. Just put them all together.
Oh, I don't. There's no reason to. It's all the same color.
Exactly.
That's what my mom said to me when I moved out. She was like, "At least you'll have an easy time doing your laundry." I was like, "I guess you're right. I don't really have to think about it. It's a one and done sort of deal."
I wonder if any of the other ones are up yet.
Oh, just generally, I'm usually very good about reading every single comment when I do these because I really do value the things that you all have to say. But I didn't read most of the comments today, and I feel I'm definitely going to rewatch this and read all the comments this time on the second time because I want to know what people were saying. And I was too busy lecturing, as it were. So,
I missed a lot of them as well.
The Pasolini set is only 30% off because it's technically a pre-order. When it comes out this... Oh, wait, no, it's not. I lied. Never mind. I guess they're just getting around to it.
Did it come out? I thought it was about to come out.
I think it was a June sort of deal. I think it came out on Tuesday.
Oh.
But yeah, that's...
Yeah,
I'm not going to
it's
get it now,
available.
probably.
Yeah.
But it's one that's I'm going to be getting eventually.
So yeah, Pasolini should be $125 on sale.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to shout out Rough Cut Fan Club. They're putting up like 4 different kinds of shirts tomorrow morning. But if you are a big fan of The Office, which that's a very stereotypical thing for people to love, I love this design they have.
Oh my god, it's so sick. The Jalo shirt.
Strangler Strikes Back. It's so perfect.
I think that's the only Office merch I would ever wear, to be honest with you. It's so good. What are the other ones they're dropping? I remember I was looking at this the other day and I was like, damn it, I don't need more shirts.
Let me pull it up. Oops. So tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern, Seijun Suzuki double feature. And then we reprinted and did new colorways of a few older designs for 5 Points Fest, and the extras from that are now available on the website. And that's Frankenstein Conquers the World, the X from Outer Space, the Godzilla Power Hour, and Inframan. Lots of options.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lovely shirt.
Yeah.
Well, I don't mean to beleaguer the point anymore. We're kind of just sitting here shooting the shit, and it's great for everybody, but I don't want to hold everybody's time if we don't need to. Anything else from Severin people want to talk about or highlight? I mean, Severin's the big story tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. What have I missed? I don't know, most of it. I posted a little review of Hellaware. I don't know if you saw that, but I remember you asked me specifically you told me to tell you what I think of it when I see it.
Yeah, because I think it's more I saw your review. I think it's more your speed than mine, and it definitely was.
I enjoyed it. It's something else.
And that's the perfect example. Like, I think you and I talked about this before with films like Cam or Deadstream or a couple others like this, where the main characters are insufferable and they're not likable in any situation, but it can still be a good movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that dude is the worst. And it's like, I had fun with it. It is.
The Perdita Durango fetus jars are on sale.
Nice. Maybe I should get one of those. What do you think they would charge to ship that on its own? Probably more than what it costs.
Yeah. It's $16 on sale right now.
Oh my god, I thought it was going to be like $5. Never mind. I was under the impression they're trying to get rid of those. Can you tell how sleepy I am?
Oh yeah,
Is it that obvious? Wow.
it's all right. Either way, this is probably a good time. Thanks everybody for doing this. If you want more Celeste, please go to the channel and subscribe.
Yeah.
Link is in the description below. I mean, there's rumblings of a Patreon or something happening soon. Maybe
There might be. It might already exist, and I just haven't announced it because it makes me anxious. So I guess you could try to find it.
I'm already on it.
Damn.
Everybody, check out Celeste. Check out my Patreon. Check out Celeste's Patreon. Whatever you want to do, we would be thrilled to have you. You guys are amazing. This has been a lot of fun. I may be live on Saturday, I guess. We'll talk about it then. Thanks, everybody. And until next time, from two collectors to all of you, have a good night.
Bye.